Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support our show, go to colinslaststand.com. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast. This is episode 112. My name is Colin Moriarty. I'm joined as always by Chris, timed exclusive Raygun. Chris, how are you today?
I'm good. We're in the middle of a heat wave over here on the West Coast, specifically in Los Angeles area. So it's a pretty good time to have not had a haircut in a long time.
Yeah, you're looking a little disheveled.
Yeah, just a
at
little
this
bit.
point. Now, right before we started, you were talking about how I guess you're drinking coffee, and you said the coffee was hot.
Yeah.
Did I interpret that correctly? So you're drinking a hot coffee during the heat wave? Doesn't really matter?
Yeah, I mean, I would have gotten an iced coffee, but I have coffee here, you know?
I see.
I'll deal with it. I need the energy. I got a long day ahead of me.
Yeah, we're recording, we're 3 hours apart, of course. So it's still early in the day for you. I got up today at 10 a.m. It was unusual. It's pretty early for me.
Oh, nice.
And it was serendipitous because my sister text messaged me just a few minutes after I woke up and asked me if I wanted to go to Barnes & Noble. So I went to a bookstore in real life.
I did that today, too. Yesterday, actually.
Isn't that funny?
Isn't that weird? I got the Death Stranding art book.
Oh, well, that's a little nerdy.
It is a little nerdy. I wasn't even going there for any reason, but I was like, oh, this is probably... I like art books.
Yeah, art books are nice. I wasn't there for any reason. My sister is a literature and English teacher, so she was buying books, I guess, for her classes. But nothing caught my eye. I walked around, I did a few laps, and nothing caught my eye, so I didn't buy anything at all. I have so many books to read. I don't like having books that I've not read, and then they're actually starting to stack up a little bit. Yeah. No, pardon the pun, of course. So let me see here. What was I thinking? Oh, this is episode 112 now. I did want to give a little shout out to the number 112. If you're from Suffolk County, Long Island, like I am, 112 is a pretty meaningful number because there's a major artery that crosses the island by us called 112, Route 112, but everyone just calls it 112. So you just throw out the vernacular like, oh, I'm going to the Taco Bell on 112. Oh, I got to go to Pathmark. Do you want to go to Pathmark on 112? You know, you hear that term thrown around constantly. So when I see that number, that's what it reminds me of. So I want to give it a little shout out to my home of Long Island. Hope everyone is staying well. I want everyone to stay well, in particular, Chris, everywhere, but especially on a Long Island.
Yeah. You're always gonna have a bias.
Yeah,
area,
like if everyone was gonna die in the world except for one place, I'd probably choose Long Island to live over everybody else. Yeah. So shout out to them. And of course, this is our weekly PlayStation podcast. You can get every episode 3 days early and ad-free by supporting us on Patreon, just like 10,000 plus people do at patreon.com/colinslaststand. Thank you so much for your kindness, generosity, and support. Your help, depending on what level you support us at, you can get access to Sacred Symbols Plus, which is our weekly supplemental podcast. We just did a mailbag last week. Yes, we will be doing Ghost of Tsushima spoiler cast and review discussion in the next episode of Sacred Symbols Plus. So please look forward to it. Or please be excited about it.
Yeah.
Whatever suits you. And of course, you can submit your questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, and ideas on Patreon. Get our monthly Q&A and all the rest. Now, Chris, there are a lot of inquiries that I wanted to get through this week.
Yeah.
From the audience. If you don't mind, some corrections, a few people calling us out, and some other chicanery.
It's always fun.
As usual. Now, this guy, Gus Greenwood, wrote in. Now, there's an interesting thing about this guy, Gus Greenwood. He wrote in something else, and I actually was going to use it in the little mailbag thing we do at the end of every episode. But then so I'm scrolling through. I scrolled through the comments in the order we received them, and then he pops up again with another usable and interesting comment. So I think that this Gus Greenwood guy, he might have a future in this audience. I don't know.
He has a bright future ahead of him. This Gus fella.
Indeed. He says, "Hey fellas, this is an urgent query." Following up on some of the bathroom rituals discussions. Chris, I am calling you out individually for this one.
Yeah.
I just saw an Instagram story posted by you in which you were taking a shower. The twist was that you were enjoying a nice shower beer. This part of, he says, I'm sorry, is wonderful and I'm in full support. But unless my eyes deceived me, you were wearing your glasses. As a fellow glasses wearer, I find this unbelievably ludicrous. Is this an everyday occurrence? How do you wash your face? Do you knock them off when washing your hair? How are you going to atone for this affront to God? Wow, he sounds like Andrew Ryan a little bit. Thanks, guys. Keep up the good work. A God. Moscow. All right. Chris, what do you say? I did see this.
Yeah.
You are blind. I mean, we do understand this.
Yeah, particularly. Like,
yes.
I think anybody could tell just based on like any given photograph of me that my prescription's particularly high. I think that's a pretty obvious fact. I gotta say, there's a hint of ableism in this question, Gus. Because you're implying that I'm wearing my glasses in the shower for fun instead of out of just pure necessity. Like, my vision's, it's super bad. Like, my vision's super bad. I just kind of need my glasses. I've had plenty of experiences when I was, like, younger and, like, I'd put my glasses on, like, the top of the shower door and I'd, like, forget where they were and I'd, like, feel around for them and I'd knock them behind the toilet or, like, I would go I'd go into the shower and then, like, I wouldn't see the ridiculously big spider that I was stepping in there with because I just didn't have my glasses on. And at a certain point, you just get sick of all those, like, small but rememberable occurrences. And I just sort of got to the point where I was like, I'm just going to wear them because I get to have visual clarity in the shower. And I get to, honestly, I also get to clean my glasses in the process, which is something that you could forget to do. Honestly,
sure, that's a good multitask, I suppose.
It is a good multitask. And I also
I love a good multitask.
And I also got to say, it's really, it's not really hard at all to wash your face and hair with glasses on. You're not putting soap in your eyes anyway, typically. You're usually putting, like, face wash around the area. You could get under the lenses. It's not really that difficult.
Sure.
It's honestly, this question strikes me genuinely like, how do you walk and chew gum at the same time to me? Like, it's really not hard.
I want to go back to this ableist comment because it feels like he's one sentence away from asking you if you wear, like, a bicycle helmet in the shower, and then we'll really know what Gus Greenwood thinks of Chris at that point.
Yeah.
So thank you, Gus, for your thoughtful and arguably ableist letter. I guess we'll leave it up to
arguable.
We'll leave it up to Chris to take it as it is. But I don't know. I watch Chris's Instagram stories. I find them quite entertaining. I didn't think twice about the glasses being, but maybe it's because maybe I knew this already. I don't know.
Yeah,
well, we can follow up on this later if you want. But let's see what else is in here. Oh, I forgot to tell you, by the way, before I even get any further. I bought an elliptical, which I did a few weeks ago. I finally put it together last weekend.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which I couldn't believe, by the way. I took all this shit out of the box. I'm like, I said to myself, and I think I put it on Instagram as well, there's no way this is actually going to happen. Like, there's no way I'm going to actually put this thing together. And then I somehow did. Now it's a little rickety, I got to say. I got to probably tighten a few things up, a few nuts, a few bolts, and all of this. But I've been working out on it every day for a half an hour.
That's good.
And I'm full of vigor.
That's great.
Right now. I got to say, yeah. I gotta move a little bit,
Oh,
I'm turning it into like a blob, like a gelatinous blob. I'm actually not getting any heavier. I just feel like I should be getting heavier. So I assume it's just right around the corner. And I'm now trying to stem it off as best as I can.
It's like it's a precognition almost.
Yeah, that's exactly right. My Spidey sense. Speaking of Spidey sense, Tom Sweeney tweets out here, I'm so sick of high school teenage Spider-Man. Anyone who knows anything about him knows that his best stories happen after his time in high school in his early 20s. I can't tell if Tom is he really deeply sarcastic, or is this a...
I don't know. I live with him. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I think that's a genuine thought, but I think he thinks people care. And I keep going into his room. I keep saying, listen, dude, no one's paying attention to this. Nobody cares about this at all.
Well, back to the show. Let's see here. He just caught my eye because I have these huge fucking monitors in my face now.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll take a picture, actually, put it on my Instagram story next time I kick it over to you. And so I feel like, I don't know, there's just so much information.
Yeah, you feel like the man in the chair, kind of.
That's exactly right. By the way, when Joe Biden, I don't know if you saw in the DNC when he had like a discussion with a few people on these different TVs, and it looked like he was the architect in The Matrix. It was crazy. I didn't see anyone actually make that reference, but he definitely did.
Everybody looks like Max Headroom now. Like every time I see like anything that has to do with anybody doing like a live event now, because everybody has to basically Zoom call, so it just looks awkward.
Yeah, I don't. I just wish we didn't see anybody anymore. Let's just do the audio thing like we're doing here on the show. I don't need to see you.
Yeah.
And for God's sakes, not that anyone in my family listens to this, but stop calling me. Can you please?
You don't need.
Just text me, for God's sake. I don't want. I get agita when I fucking get a phone call from people. I hate it.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. What am I talking about? Let's see. Oh, here we go. Jordan wrote in. A lot of people were pretty incensed by this. We have a couple comments on this topic. He says, I have no time for pleasantries. Let's cut to the chase. That guy who eats his pizza upside down might actually be insane. As long as he is able to submit questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, and ideas, he is a danger to himself and to this Patreon. I will match whatever he is pledging if you revoke his privileges. I have no problem with him continuing to enjoy the content, but good God Almighty, we cannot allow this sort of anarchist propaganda to gain a foothold in this community. For the love of God, eat your pizza normally. And then Sean McGuire wrote in and said, could we start voting people out of the Patreon? Every week, I think you should invite an open discussion of which one of these maniacs must be removed so as to not poison the rest of the pack. And we should start with this asshole talking about eating pizza upside down. I don't know what trauma led him to such insanity, but he is clearly beyond saving. Fuck him. And fuck you for forcing me to recognize people like him exist.
That's so passionate.
I know. Jesus Christ. So this was a pretty controversial point that people really took a lot of issue with.
I mean, it is insane.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I can't...
I agree.
Maybe the intensity could be bubbled down a little bit, you know, toned down a tad. But, you know, I can't say I disagree with where the heart is, you know?
No, I needed to read it because I couldn't be the only one to have known. and thus had poisoned tens of thousands of people. Jordan notes, though, and this is the interesting aspect of the English language. He says, that guy who eats his pizza upside down. So it could be that he's eating his pizza and he himself is upside down in that sentence. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to hear from any grammar nerds. Please just save it because I can't with it right now. I just can't do it.
You shouldn't have opened that Pandora's box now, though.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Armando Estevez wrote in with a correction. He says, hey, CNC, this is a grievance more than anything, but I cannot let this misinformation continue. Chris, you dunderhead. People are being mean this week, huh?
Dunderhead I like, though.
Yeah, that's a good one, though. You're right. He says a subscription is not required to play games on Google Stadia. The Stadia Pro subscription allows for game streaming at 4K and gets the user some free games, but is not necessary to play any of the games once they are purchased. I thought you were smarter than this, and frankly, I'm disappointed. Man, we are.
Yeah, that is true. I must have misspoke. Yeah. I guess I assumed, based on like vague memories of what Stadia was, that Stadia Pro actually had a reason for you to buy it. I thought that there was some point. But
no,
evidently there really isn't.
No, there's no point. And who cares? I mean, that's my answer to that. You know, Armando, I'm sorry, but
I guess on a PlayStation podcast, we have more leeway to be wrong about Stadia than on, the flourishing market of Stadia podcasts that we're all invariably listening to and tuning into week after week.
There's got to be Stadia podcasts, right? Let me see here. Stadia podcasts.
Stadia of the Nation or something?
Ooh, that's good. That's a good one. Let's see here. Stadia Cast, a Google Stadia podcast. Let's see here. There's a Reddit thread. The Google Stadia Show. I wonder if either of these are still going. These are from Reddit from 2019.
That doesn't sound... Come on.
Yeah, these guys are still going. Stadia Cast still goes. They have a 4.4 rating on iTunes. Not bad.
That's pretty good.
And then, what is this? Oh, this is just a different podcast entirely that has nothing to do... Well, I don't know how I even found my way here.
You know what I bet I'll reenact the opening few seconds of every single Stadia podcast, probably. You ready?
Yeah, please.
And that's it.
That's it.
just a deep sigh.
Sighcast.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. Now, a user named I'm Hurtin' for a Squirtin' wrote in.
Oh, God.
Says, hey, CNC, I found it funny the other week when Colin mentioned how he would imagine that taking damage in video games is not your character not actually taking damage, because right before I put on the podcast, I just finished reading where the development team for the Uncharted series stated that when Nathan Drake would get hit, he wasn't actually being hit. Only the last bullet hits you when you die. The health bar is not him taking any actual damage, but Nathan's luck running out. I found this super creative and really works with the atmosphere that playing Uncharted brings. Keep up the great work, guys. Only found you guys about a month ago via Chris, but I'm already hooked. That's very nice of you.
That's great. Awesome.
I'm hurting for a squirtin'. Thanks for being here.
I forgot about that. That because when you said that rung like a weird bell in my head, and I remember reading something like that before. It totally missed me that this was like an Uncharted thing.
Yeah, I did say that it definitely can't. I definitely didn't make it up. I think I remember saying that where I was like, I'm pretty sure that I read this somewhere. Uncharted was not the game that I would have attached it to, but it makes perfect sense. Amy Hennig, obviously very clever. So thank you for the correction. Now, this next one, well, let's just read it. Kurt Lewin says, I have to take umbrage with Colin's tweet the other day regarding having only one bin in the house. We know Kurt now is British, so thanks for outing yourself. I need to know what he does if it comes to the end of the toilet roll. What do you do, Colin, with the cardboard tube? Just leave it on the floor.
What?
So, Chris, the other day, I tweeted out that now that I own my own house, I can follow through on one of my long-held dreams, which is to have one garbage can in the entire house, which I do. I have one garbage can in the entire house. It's in the kitchen. And people were befuddled by this move. Now, there are some interesting things about, maybe if you're a woman, you want to have a little bit of a private, a little bath, for your feminine care products. You want a little bin, perhaps, something like that. I understand. I'm a single man living alone. And people kept asking questions like Kurt, where it's like, what do you do with the Q-tips? What do you do? What do I do, Kurt? I throw them in the garbage.
Yeah,
I take them out of the bathroom and I throw it in the garbage. Actually, I recycle I technically recycle the cardboard tubes. But
yeah, it doesn't seem that like it would be that difficult to, like, especially if it's just like a toilet paper roll. Like, it's just a piece of cardboard. It's not even really garbage until it's on the floor. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, it's just kind of this thing that you could just like, all right, I'll get this. When I'm done with this, I'll just bring this to the kitchen and throw it away.
That's exactly right. It's like I floss every night, for instance, and then I just take the floss and throw it away in the kitchen. Is it really that big of it? Is it like really that big of a deal? I don't know. I don't think it is. I don't think this was one of the most controversial things I've ever said. It turns out, which is incredible.
Well, it's because most people have multiple garbage cans,
but they never thought about why.
I guess. I mean,
they never considered it.
I think they know about. They know why. It's just convenience. It's just like, I don't want to walk further than I need to dispose of things.
But here's the thing. Here's my argument against this.
Okay.
I'm pretty fastidious, but I'm not like a clean freak. I like keeping things neat and stuff, but I'm not like crazy about it. Mm-hmm. But I don't like the idea of having like a half dozen just piles of refuse laying around my house at any given time. It's got to be just one, and then I could just take it and go. And there's no garbage anywhere else. And it just works really well for me.
Yeah.
It just works really well for me.
I mean, you shouldn't be throwing away like unfinished food in every single garbage can in your house. Like the kitchen garbage can is the main garbage can, I think, for most people. I think most people would agree that, like, yeah, if you got food or like just general disgusting stuff, you throw it in the kitchen garbage. That is the main garbage. But I think, like, I don't know, like if you have like an office, you get like a waste paper basket for like useless paper or like envelopes or maybe like wrappers of like tech that you get. Like if you get the stupid like little peel away stickers that come on every bit of tech that you get nowadays. And like I feel like it's a similar thing with the bathroom where it's just like Q-tips and stuff, where there's a different type of refuse that goes along with whatever room the garbage can is associated with.
Sure. I understand that. It's just a bridge too far for me, and I'm trying to. It's the 21st century, and I'm trying to.
You're streamlining.
Yeah, I want to just now. Do I have to go out of my way sometimes? Yeah, I do, but it puts my mind at ease, and I was really confused by how this just broke people down like old 19th century machines. They just screeched to a halt.
Yeah, the servos just started. Fuming and steaming and all sorts of terrible things.
It was just so not that people, because there could be an argument. We have arguments about should you brush your teeth in the shower? The answer, of course, is yes.
Yes.
But should you? Of course, that's an open question. But this, I don't know. This just people had a lot of strong opinions, so I wanted to just acknowledge that. Thank you, Kurt, for writing in. Jay Phillips wrote in and said, hey, fourth echelon Colin and Voron Chris. I don't understand that reference.
Yeah, me neither, honestly.
And I'm not going to look it up.
Oh, wait a minute. Is that Splinter Cell? Fourth echelon, of course.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Here we go. On episode 111, you guys mentioned that there haven't been any leaks regarding a hypothetical new Splinter Cell game, which given Ubisoft's track record didn't spell good news for the future of the IP. Well, you're both wrong. The Italian voice actor for Sam Fisher has stated that a new Splinter Cell is definitely coming and was likely delayed due to COVID-19. So it has leaked from a pretty reliable source. And then he did link out to a story, which it's PlayStation Lifestyle, I think, which is a good site. But he says, thoughts. I reiterate, Chris, this game is going to get announced at that Ubisoft event in September. It's getting announced.
All right. I'll believe it when I see it. I can't. I just can't be let down again.
Okay.
You know?
I understand.
I got to stay at the bottom so I have somewhere to go.
Yeah, there's nowhere more to you to fall, but up. You can fall upwards now.
Yeah.
A lack of gravity and whatnot. All right. Well, thank you, Jay. Now, there are a couple of things. Sony released a new PS5 ad. Did you see this thing by chance on PlayStation blog? And it's on like the YouTube channel. It's just the first PS5 spot. They really oversold this thing. When I sat down and watched it, I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
It's just fine.
No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think you are missing anything, but it exists if people want to check it out. Along with the ad, there has been a small media round being done by like Eric Lempel and some other guys from Sony. And there's nothing much to report out of that. It's a lot of PR talk, but they do reiterate one more time that the console is coming this year. Mm-hmm. We've been discussing, is it possible it's going to get delayed or all those things? That doesn't seem possible the way they're talking about it. But again, we're recording this August 20th and it will go live August 21st on Patreon. Still no pre-orders. No date.
Oh, boy.
And no price. So
you got to hurry
for
up.
a console. Yep. We have fewer than 100 days, I would assume, at this point.
Yeah.
So, also, I want to talk a little bit about this control backwards compatibility thing. We talked about it last week a little bit. I'm a little surprised about this special edition they're doing and how you can't just get upgraded or whatever. Are you surprised like I am that this has gotten this far? I guess when I read this last week, I was like, why does anyone care? And it actually has turned into this pretty substantial story. I don't know if you've been keeping up with it, but I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it makes sense. I think it's kind of because there really is no reason why these games can't just run better on new hardware, because we have a perfect the fact that PC exists, like the fact that Steam plays games the way it does, and the fact that your PC can just sort of sense what kind of components you're working with and just sort of adjust the game to what your rig is, made up of, it kind of lends to this general aura around video games where it's like, oh, if my machine is better, I should just be able to just run the games better. And that's kind of what's happening over on the Xbox side. They're doing a lot of like, Series X revamps or like kind of like upgrades to previous generation games, even games that are going back to like 360 and original Xbox. So the fact that Control is just one of these games that didn't run well in the first place on modern consoles, and they're charging for something that we know very well wouldn't really be expensive to do, I think is kind of compounding into this sort of general frustration that you're seeing, and just the general uncertainty of this next generation and how this next generation is going to handle the majority of cases like this.
It's interesting because did you read the statement from 505? It was actually released just a few hours ago, so I don't know if you saw it.
I read a little bit of it, yeah.
It's ridiculous. I actually think they would have been better not saying anything.
Yeah.
And just moving forward with it. Here's what they say in part for the audience. I mean, this is nonsense. Now, I have to look. I'll look after. Oh, let me actually look now. I'm pretty sure 505 Games is American. Oh, no, they're Italian.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe this. Oh, I didn't even know that. Let me see here.
Yeah, I thought they were like Eastern European or something.
Oh, I had no idea that this was for some reason I thought they were like a small American publisher. Oh, well, you learn something every day. So 505 Games is Italian. So this makes a little bit more sense with what might be a language barrier, maybe, but because this is really, it's weird. What they say is, last week, alongside information about the upcoming AWE expansion for Control, we also released information about Control Ultimate Edition. A control package featuring the Foundation and AWE expansions coming to current and next-gen consoles as well as PC. We spent several months exploring all of our launch options for Control Ultimate Edition, and no decision was taken lightly. While it is challenging bringing any game to next-gen platforms, we quickly realized it was even more difficult to upgrade our current user base to next-gen with full parity across platforms with our year-old game. Every avenue we pursued, there was some sort of blocker, and those blockers meant that at least one group of players ended up being left out of the upgrade for various reasons. As of today, we can't offer an upgrade to everyone, and leaving any one group out feels unfair. We understand that is not what you want to hear. What?
Yeah, I don't even understand.
The fuck does that mean? And so here's where the real confusion lies. They have a little FAQ. And so the hypothetical question is, will I be able to purchase the Control base game on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X without the additional content? So they say no. The only version of Control available on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X will be Control Ultimate Edition. However, if you have the Control base game, the expansion packs or the Season Pass on PlayStation 4 or Xbox One in your collection, you will still be able to play 100% of the game and enjoy the enhanced experience through backwards compatibility. And then the next question is, does this mean the Season Pass won't be available to purchase separately on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X? And it says, correct. All content featured will be available as part of Control Ultimate Edition. The original base game expansion packs and Season Pass will not be sold separately on PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X. Do you see the problem here? This doesn't make any sense. How are they going to silo? Why can't I go on PlayStation 5 and buy the old version of the game on the PlayStation 4 storefront? This can't be right. Like when I was reading this, I'm like, this can't have possibly been vetted by Sony. This can't be right.
Well, I assume that the PS4 storefront just won't be accessible on PS5, right?
That can't be. That would be nuts.
It would be nuts, but I don't know, man.
No,
like,
no way.
Because they've said they've been really kind of cagey about backwards compatibility in general, and they have made a pretty strong statement about how they want like a definitive line between this gen and the next gen. I have no doubt that maybe there will be games from the PS4 storefront on this new whatever the hell they're doing, but it wouldn't necessarily surprise me that PS5 has its own store. That would be wild. I would think that would be stupid, but they've been so cagey and like unclear about what is even happening with it. But honestly, Xbox too. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on with this generation of systems at all, and they haven't really said anything. It's August, and we don't know what the UI looks like. We don't know what the store looks like. We don't know anything. It's weird. Yeah,
it is weird, especially because there's a question later on in this FAQ from 505 where it says, is Control backwards compatible with PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X? Absolutely. Owners of the original edition of Control on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One can enjoy backwards compatibility when next-gen systems launch. What?
Yeah, so what's the point of
that literally, maybe I'm just reading this wrong. People should go read this before it's going to get edited inevitably, I know.
Yeah.
But this doesn't make any sense.
It's really confusing.
They should have just not said anything. I don't know. This is an example of saying too much.
Yeah, for sure.
But I did want to acknowledge
and it's just very unclear for having said anything, you know? It actually like just makes it even more confusing.
I hate it, but it is what it is. I don't know if I'm going to play it again, so it doesn't matter to me, but we want to keep everything on the up and up here.
Yeah.
Clint Farley wrote into us and said, hey, Colin and Chris, hope you're both doing well. My question is for Colin. I picked up Twin Breaker, our game, over the weekend and had a lot of fun with it. However, I need to know who came up with the idea to use 4 paddles. And what did the world do to said person to make them so angry that they do such a thing? Keep up the great work. I don't know. That's Barry doing that. That's his idea. And it is a little bit of it's caused a lot of headaches. But I wanted to bring that up and to acknowledge that, not only to thank you, Clint, for playing the game, but to let everyone know we will have more news imminently on the ports of the game to other consoles very, very soon. So
exciting.
I know some of you are waiting for Switch, and Xbox One and PC will have information on all of that soon, and you'll be getting your disgusting mitts on him real soon, I think. Ethan Fitzgerald wrote in and said, hey guys, is pizza sauce considered a topping? This has been a lively debate within my friend group, and it essentially has split into 2 sides. One side believes that it is a topping because most definitions of the word pizza say so. There are also different types of sauces used on pizzas, depending on the type of pizza. The other side of the argument is that no person has to request that sauce beyond the pizza, whereas true pizza toppings have to be added. Please help settle this contentious debate. A lot of pizza talk today.
Yeah. It's like
The answer is no. The answer is no.
yeah,
it's not.
no, it's not a topping. If you say let me get a pizza, they're not going to ask you whether or not you want sauce on it. I don't think, generally speaking. So it's not a topping. It's like technically a topping if you want to get really technical. Like if you want to just forego the definition and just go like really get really granular about like, oh well, it's on top of the pizza, you know, but it's not a topping. Like there's no real debate there.
Yeah. So it reminds me. I feel like we must have talked about this in the past, but I don't think we have. I just found it on Google though. People should go to pizzarules.com. So PIZZARULES.com /56/56. And this brings you to None Pizza with Left Beef, which is an old 12 or 13-year-old thing that was this meme before there were really even memes, where you can order your Domino's pizza online.
Yeah.
And you do like the hold, the left or right, but these guys just selected none for everything except for beef, only on the left side of the pizza. And it's really funny. If you go check, I don't know. I think it's really funny. Pizzarules.com /56.
That's so insane.
The days of summer are waning, days when, even in our current societal predicament, we're able to get outside, catch some rays, be in public, and, perhaps even be around some people. But as we approach the colder and darker months ahead, you'll probably be getting much more inside time. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing if my friends at Adam and Eve have anything to do with it. Adam and Eve is an online adult store that can help make your alone time or time with that special someone just a little more, productive, let's say. It's 2020. We're far beyond the days of quaint sexual taboos. The reality is your solo or partnered sexual experiences can be greatly heightened by Adam and Eve's substantial online selection of toys, films, lingerie, and much more. Better yet, all Adam and Eve purchases are shipped discreetly directly to your door, so you don't horrify your elderly neighbors with the freaky shit you're doing in your house. That's none of their business anyway. Plus, if you act right now, they'll even send you some free goodies with your order, including half a dozen movies and a mysterious 3-piece bonus kit, along with completely free shipping. All you have to do is head to adamandeve.com, that's ADAMANDEVE.com, and use the code SACRED at checkout, SACRED. It's really that simple. So enhance your stay-at-home time and get those idle hands busy. Again, head to adamandeve.com and use the checkout code SACRED for free shipping, some extra goodies, and above all else, quality adult wares.
Michael Vecchio wrote in and said, "What's up, CNC? What's your take on cilantro? Some people like myself love it and others hate it. Someone I knew said it tastes like dish soap." Someone just said that to me recently. What say you? Chris, where do you stand on cilantro? Very, very controversial herb.
I really
Indeed.
don't know. Like I have it in some things, and I don't know if I really notice it, but it certainly doesn't taste like dish soap to me. It's a very nothing thing to me. Like I could take it or leave it, and it doesn't make really that much of a difference to me.
It's meaningless to you.
Yeah, it means it doesn't matter to me. It definitely doesn't taste like dish soap. I think that's like I feel like I was talking to somebody recently about this, where it's like it's just like a mutation in taste buds that makes people more sensitive to the taste of cilantro, which actually does taste like dish soap, but some people aren't sensitive enough in the taste department to taste it or something.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Like that cilantro is on the border of something within us because I've heard people say it tastes like metal.
Oh, weird.
I've heard that. But I don't know. I mean, if cilantro was evaporated and never existed, I wouldn't really give two shits, to be honest. But I still eat it when it's in salsa or in your burrito.
Yeah,
it's fine.
I don't seek it out to put it in anything, but I will eat it if it's in something, and I don't think I'd make too much of a fuss about it.
I could be wrong, but I don't think I've ever bought cilantro. Like I don't think I've ever bought it and used it.
I've certainly never bought it.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into what we're playing. Chris, it says here you're playing Ghost of Tsushima, which again we're going to be doing our spoiler cast and review discussion on imminently. Anything new to say about it?
No, it's the same. I feel the same way about it still. It's good. I like it a lot.
Yeah, we'll save our discussion of it since we're going to be doing the conversation soon too. I've been playing it. I am enjoying it. I think it's really good. I don't understand the acclaim, let's say, that this game is getting. I don't know that I'm on board that much with it, but it is very good. It's basically exactly what I thought it was going to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
But I have a lot to say about it though. So we'll save it for the episode. I'm going to put out a thread by the time this goes live. It should be ready to go. So you can all First of all, you can all complain endlessly like you always do about how maybe this is a few weeks later than you would have liked it. I'm sorry. I don't know what you want me to do about that. Stop bothering me about Ghost of Tsushima. You understand what I'm saying, everyone? Are we on the same page about Ghost of Tsushima?
You really got to just nip it in the bud.
And then Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Remastered, I beat it on Veteran. I really enjoyed it. And it was really the palate cleanser I needed. So it was free not too long ago on PS Plus, so you probably have it. If you listen to me and you aren't a fucking mongrel and you added it to your download list, you can go play it for free right now. So go check it out if you'd like. And with that, Chris, let's get into the news. There's one pretty surprising piece of news here, which we're going to begin with. Sucker Punch's Ghost of Tsushima, PlayStation 4's final AAA first-party exclusive, launched last month, is getting a rather unusual and surprising update this fall completely for free. It's called Legends, and according to a post on the official PlayStation blog revealing the news, it's a co-op multiplayer mode inspired by Japanese mythology. The blog post reads in part, quote, "Legends is an entirely new experience. It's a separate mode that doesn't follow Jin or the companions from his journey, but instead focuses on 4 warriors who have built up as legends and stories told by the people of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima's single-player campaign focuses on an open world and exploring the natural beauty of the island, but Legends is haunting and fantastical, with locations and enemies inspired by Japanese folktales and mythology, and an emphasis on cooperative combat and action. We designed Legends to be an exclusively cooperative gameplay experience. You'll be able to partner up with friends or via online matchmaking and play Legends in groups of 2 to 4 players. Each player can choose one of 4 different character classes: the Samurai, Hunter, Ronin, or Assassin. Each class has unique advantages and abilities that will reveal in the future," end quote. The piece goes on to explain that while 2 players can advance story missions of increasing difficulty level, survival missions, which are wave-based, are reserved for 4 players. There will even be raids. Again, this update will be completely free and will launch at an unspecified time this fall for all owners of the core game. Ghost of Tsushima is Sucker Punch's second PS4 release. Infamous Second Son and its First Light expansion were first and came out back in 2014, and Sony outright acquired the studio back in 2011. They are best known for their Sly Cooper trilogy on PS2 and their infamous games on PS3 and PS4, though their first game was an N64 exclusive known as Rocket Robot on Wheels. Hasham Mukhtar wrote into us and said, "Hey, Colin and Chris, what do you guys think about Ghost of Tsushima getting a multiplayer component? Do you think many people will play it? And will it even be good enough considering Sucker Punch has never done multiplayer like this?" Chris, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think this is really cool. I think if this was a game that was more or less just kind of like trashy and just sort of like half decent, that didn't have like a really compelling single player component, and they just added this like kind of tacked on multiplayer, I think I'd be a little bit more annoyed about it. But because it is a free multiplayer update to a single player game that is particularly good, I just see this as kind of like a huge win, because it just gives you more to do with this game. Even if it's not even something that you care about, it's objectively adding more value onto the thing that you already bought. So it's hard for me to really lambaste this at all. You know what I mean?
What do you think about Sucker Punch's relative lack of experience in this realm? I mean, other than doing some, what at the time was pretty novel user-generated content in Infamous 2, they really haven't messed around too much in this space at all. So this seems to be a pretty big step, because Ghost of Tsushima is very AAA. So
yeah,
do you have? I would assume that they hired for this, but do you have faith that they can deliver this? Because they are a single player studio.
Yeah, I mean, I think the base gameplay is good enough that you really could just kind of throw your friends in there, and it could probably be like a really good time to just spend. I could see this being like really fun. Will it be like a really deep multiplayer experience? Will it be like, I don't know, like Destiny 2 or something? Like, probably not. Like, it's probably not going to be that tier, but a multiplayer mode in a great single player game doesn't really have to be. It just kind of needs to be enjoyable. It needs to be functional. It needs to be like it needs to make a case for you to spend your time playing it with people. And I think it could easily do that. You know, I don't know if it's definitely not going to, you know, be the best multiplayer game that's ever existed. You know, I don't think that's even close to happening.
Yeah, I agree. When I first read this, I was like, I was kind of disappointed, because I feel like this might mean that we're not going to get a single player expansion. I think that's a pretty safe bet.
Yeah,
but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe they will add it in.
Maybe not. But I mean, this is kind of exactly what Sony also needs. They do need to compete as far as like exclusive multiplayer experiences. Like they don't really have any of that. They don't have that in any of their stables, really. Like even, did Uncharted 4 have multiplayer?
Yeah, I think it did.
Oh, really?
But I can look that up. Uncharted 2 and 3 did.
Yeah, I know. I know 2 and 3 did.
I never played Uncharted 4 online, but let me see. Uncharted, I think it did. Yeah, it did.
I don't remember that at all. But people seem to be really excited about this, and it seems to be like I feel like this is a good thing for Sony in general. It's good to get into that field, and I think a new IP is probably a good way to do it because it doesn't really have any history of being anything else but what it is. And if it can establish itself as like, hey, you know, we can make a really good single player experience that also has like a really compelling multiplayer offering. And the fact that they're making a raid for it is really interesting. Like, I wonder if that sounds like maybe they're biting off a little bit more than they can chew, but you know, it's a worthwhile attempt, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I just think about that I was pretty skeptical of Uncharted 2 and 3's multiplayer, and they're both really good. And The Last of Us, especially, Factions is going to be its own game, we now know. So it seems like unexpected things come from these studios sometimes. And I was thinking about it as I was marinating and I became more open to the idea. I was thinking, you know, Sucker Punch has been kind of at the forefront of experiments that Sony has done in the past, or seemingly so. People might remember Festival of Blood, which was Infamous 2's DLC that was like holiday themed and came out pretty quickly, and people enjoyed it. And like I said, the user generated content thing. And then of course, First Light was really one of Sony's first, if not the first, like standalone massive expansion for any of their games, which is now a pretty standard thing. We saw that with Frozen Wilds, and we're going to see that with Miles Morales and other things. So it seems like in some ways, Sucker Punch is I was going to say laboratory, like I'm European. You know, I'm not. Laboratory. Laboratory's better, though. It sounds better.
It does sound cooler, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say laboratory. Where they're a lab for these experiments. And so I have a lot of confidence that this can be really cool. And I'll agree with you in the sense that I was actually really shocked by how excited people were about this. Pretty much unanimously. I didn't really see many people, not that I'm like reading very deeply, but I didn't see many people shit talking this at all, and people hate everything. So
yeah, well, I mean, it's more value to the thing that you bought. You know, if they were charging for it, I could see people being like, "What?"
That's true.
Like,
it is free. Festival of Blood was not free, and First Light was not free. So that is a big difference here.
Yeah,
with that as well.
So now it's like, you didn't really lose anything. You just gained something that you may or may not like, and you know, I think the fact that it's co-op centric is really smart for a game like this. I feel like when you're taking a single player property like Ghost of Tsushima, even just like the style of game that it is, I feel like a PvP mode probably isn't exactly the right fit. I feel like they're doing what Mass Effect 3 did, where they've got like a strong single player component except for the ending, where they have also this additional multiplayer mode that's entirely like team based and just sort of, you know, you and your friends pick your classes, pick your whatever the hell, and you fight off the enemy AI in various arenas. I feel like that was a smart move for Mass Effect because that multiplayer mode was actually like a lot of fun. I don't know how popular an opinion that is, but I really enjoyed my time with that multiplayer, especially for what it was as like an extra thing onto this game that I already kind of like really enjoyed. So this being like a full-on raid type of game is really, really cool.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how it all unfolds. And to your point earlier, Anu Sakani wrote into us and said, "Hey, hi, howdy there, Colin and Chris. I only need you to say hello once."
Yeah, that's too many hellos.
For me, it's too much. It's too many hellos.
And in too many varying styles.
Yeah, exactly. But good alliteration.
Yeah.
Nonetheless. Sucker Punch has unveiled a new co-op multiplayer mode for Ghost of Tsushima called Legends. So far, the announcement has been received fairly positively. Do you think this is a sign of things to come and we'll see Sony make good on prior statements to focus more on multiplayer titles for PS5? On top of that, do you think they will continue with this model of making multiplayer modes that tie into games where no one really imagined a multiplayer mode? Keep up the great work, you two. 5 months of working from home so far, and you guys have made it far more bearable. Much love from Portland, Oregon. Thank you, and stay safe. Portland is apparently a war scene out of like a third world country, as far as I understand on Twitter. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, it's probably not. I have a lot of friends in Portland, and it's like, I don't know what's going on, but it's definitely not whatever's on Twitter.
Yeah. It looks like it's like hell on earth.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
It's like that picture of the pyramids where it's like, you ever seen a picture of the pyramids like from like the sky, and it's like 3 feet away from like this major cluttered city.
Oh yeah, it's Cairo, I think.
It's shocking. Like, just it completely upends your entire view of the world when you see that. It's
kind of cool, right? It's like old meets new. It's neat. It would be cooler if Cairo was like a really, really. I think it's Cairo. Cairo would be a really, really like almost like Seoul or Tokyo, where it's very futuristic.
Yeah, like that would be Dubai or something.
Cooler. Yeah, Dubai, great example. That would be way cooler.
Yeah, it would be.
Maybe Cairo can get there one day, but. So to a news question, do you feel like this is a sign of things to come? Because I think that it is. I think the first inkling, again, was factions kind of being spun out of The Last of Us Part 2. Now, who knows if that's marketing or them wanting to make more money, which is possible, and that's fine, or if it wasn't going to be ready in time. But it seems like maybe they are going to be putting more of an onus on multiplayer, and that's kind of where I realized I was being a bit of a hypocrite with my own initial reaction, because I've been along saying that they need to capture this market, and this is a way to stop people from selling their games, although that's going to become less of a problem moving forward as we move more and more to digital, but it keeps them engaged. And this actually had people talking a great deal about the game again a month or so after it came out. So I think it's all positive, and I think we're going to see more of this. But what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think it's smart. I don't know if a game like God of War could really do it, but I do think there are some series in Sony's first party that could, if there was the proper creative team behind it, could take something that is previously known as just like kind of this single player experience and turn it into something that is, compelling. I think there's room for that in the first party.
And Elijah De La Rosa wrote into us. I didn't do a very good job of saying that, I know. He says, "Hey, Colin and not noteworthy Chris." Not noteworthy Chris. That's not nice. I don't like that. Did that hurt you?
Nah. Bit? I was taking a sip of coffee.
Oh, okay. With Ghost of Tsushima getting a surprise co-op mode post-launch, is there any other Sony first-party title that you believe would benefit from similar treatment? My money goes on Horizon, a cool monster hunting-like mode where you and 1 to 2 others tackle enhanced, outrageous versions of beasts from the normal game with more complex ways to defeat them. I'm with Elijah. I think that's the obvious answer in my mind. You know what was an interesting one too was like an Until Dawn Supermassive type or Quantic Dream type game with real ways to play together where people are making individual choices that will affect the other person regardless. So like you have no control over the scared girl and the towel in the house, right? And you're the surfer dude in the basement, and the decisions you're making interact with one another. You know what I mean? Like Until Dawn with more players. I think that's really complicated, and I don't know if that would sell very well, but that came to mind too. But Horizon could really be turned into, or that brand can be spun off in some way into something almost like Monster Hunter, which would be interesting. But I think Horizon is the obvious choice. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Horizon would be. I think Horizon's the obvious choice. Something else that I would personally like to see, only because it's never really existed before, and I feel like the setup now with Peter Parker and Miles Morales existing in the same universe, I feel like a co-op Spider-Man game would be really cool. Even if just like you could join somebody as like Miles or Peter or whatever the hell. Because I feel like there's a lot of room for just like as a tacked on, even just like as a sandbox kind of like mess around and like, hey, I'll race you to the end of Manhattan. Just like simple, like just let's jump in and just have fun with like the map and the tools at our disposal. I feel like that could be really fun, if nothing else than just like a minor kind of distraction. But I do think like as far as like what could be the most compelling, probably a Horizon Monster Hunter type deal. I feel like that'd be a good idea.
That'd be really neat. I know that they wanted, as I recall, Guerrilla wanted to put co-op in Horizon originally. That was part of the plan, and they obviously took it out at some point early in development. So maybe we'll even see that in Forbidden West.
Maybe.
Which would be interesting. My only fear with that is that I just don't want them to make a game that's like Army of Two or something where it's like it's totally predicated on you playing with someone else. It's got to be additive. It can't be supplemental. Let's say.
Yeah.
Because then that would really piss me off.
It can't be a shit game if you're not playing with someone.
Right, exactly. And they're so well known at Sony in the first party now for these single player experiences that they must continue to prioritize those first and foremost, unless it's inherently going to be a game like SOCOM. Oh, and again, I think they can get away with really making a Killzone game that's squad based and stuff, but with the core games like God of War, Horizon, I think even Days Gone, stuff like that we're going to see more games from. Days Gone's another example of a game that could be pretty cool with other people too, though. Riding your hogs around Central Oregon.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Days Gone later. Don't worry about that.
Oh, good.
Number 2, the next Call of Duty game will indeed be called Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. It's so cumbersome. Why couldn't they just call it Call of Duty Cold War? Why couldn't they just call it that?
It's so fascinating because it's like Call of Duty. It's not even like Call of Duty is a series anymore. Call of Duty is like a medium, and Black Ops is a series in that medium. You know what I mean? Where it's
right, just like Modern Warfare.
Yeah,
right,
it's so crazy. Where it's like, oh, Call of Duty. The name recognition of Call of Duty doesn't matter anymore, but the name recognition of Modern Warfare and Black Ops, that matters. That is so wild that's definitely like a marketing decision that they definitely had to talk through. You know?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. I mean, you just answered the question, I think. God, I don't think I ever just interrupted myself one sentence into a news story. So let me read it again and we'll get into this here. The next Call of Duty game will indeed be called Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, as confirmed by publisher Activision, which also released a vague video teasing a larger announcement. Depending on when you hear this episode, Activision may have already more fully revealed the game, which we will discuss in depth on the next episode. As long assumed, Activision-owned team Treyarch is leading development of Cold War, though it's notable that the logo art for the game also very notably places the logo of the chronically unsung Activision-owned team Raven right next to Treyarch's, which is unusual and shows that this may be far more of a collaborative effort as opposed to Raven working in its typical support role. I noticed that immediately, by the way. I'm not a Call of Duty expert, but I don't recall ever seeing Raven's logo the same size as Treyarch's anywhere.
Yeah.
So that was something that stood out to me a lot. And I love Raven. Treyarch was founded in the mid-90s and Activision gobbled it up in 2001 at a time when it was better known for its sports games. By 2005, however, it was working on Call of Duty and was behind 2006's Call of Duty 2, Big Red One, 2006's Call of Duty 3, 2008's Call of Duty World at War, 2010's Call of Duty Black Ops, 2012's Call of Duty Black Ops 2, 2015's Call of Duty Black Ops 3, and 2018's Call of Duty Black Ops 4. So like Chris said, this is their own brand now. Raven Software, on the other hand, was founded 30 years ago and has been with Activision since the late 90s. Raven has worked in a support role on each and every Call of Duty game going back a decade to the original Black Ops and hasn't released a game of its own since 2010 when Singularity came to PS3 and elsewhere. They are the team originally behind 2006's Marvel Ultimate Alliance, the original one, also developed 2009's X-Men Origins Wolverine and 2009's Wolfenstein, both great games, as well as the Hexen Games Heretic Soldier of Fortune, which was a favorite of mine as a kid, and others. So, first of all, the Cold War setting's awesome. It's not necessarily unusual. We saw this beginning with Black Ops. A few things stood out to me about this. First of all, like the key art for the game is pretty interesting. Did you see it? Like I don't know if it's the box art or whatever, but it's really un-Call of Duty. It doesn't look like a Call of Duty game at all, and I really, really liked it. So people should go check that out. It's kind of like a montage, a collage of different things, like Soviet things and German things and whatever from that era.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's pretty cool.
It does. Yeah, it does look cool.
Yeah, it's like just very different for the series, which takes itself way too seriously. So it's cool to see something a little bit more like this that maybe takes itself seriously in a different way. But also, I mean, the big thing that sticks out to me is that Raven is basically co-developing this game. Now, Treyarch is going to get all the credit. Of course, no one even knows who Raven is unless you're really into video games. But that stood out to me immediately. I was so happy for them because that's a big studio. They're in Wisconsin. There are like 200 of them there or something like that. You don't get fucking any credit for anything.
Yeah, that's a shame because like Ultimate Alliance and Wolverine is so good.
Yeah, Wolverine's awesome. That's a great game. And that Wolfenstein game, I mean, that was an aborted reboot before Bethesda and id and whatever finally started doing it internally again. But it was, or Machine Games rather. But that's a great game too. That's a really long forgotten game, 2009 Wolfenstein. Came out around the same time Infamous did, as I recall. But yeah, so shout out to them. But any thoughts, Chris, on this new game?
It's a Call of Duty game, so I'm like vaguely interested, but I just know that I'm probably not going to play it unless I get like some kind of free copy. Like I can't, there's something about Call of Duty where I just know that it's going to come out every year, so I feel like I do this kind of staggered release thing to myself where it's like, all right, I'll get a Call of Duty game 1 year, and then I'll get a Call of Duty game in 4 years, after I bought the last one that I bought. Typically is how I do it, because I know then that way at least I will feel like there's some significant difference between them. Because otherwise it's just the same. It really is just the same thing over and over again with various different skins and various different like monetization models, and I don't know.
The tough thing with that though is that now they're not on the 3-year cycle anymore with the studios. Sledgehammer seems to have been demoted. I don't know what happened with them. I'm really curious if they get put in charge of another game again. I'm actually gonna.
Did they make any Call of Duty game officially?
Sledgehammer? Yeah, they made Let's see, they made Advanced Warfare.
Ooh.
And then they made World War II.
Ooh. Yeah.
So I think that and then they worked on Modern Warfare, but that was with Infinity Ward, and Modern Warfare 3 was with Infinity War 2. I loved Modern Warfare 3 just because of the World War 3 logo. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I could see.
So I think they're done.
Yeah.
You know, I think
those are, with the exception of Ghosts, I think those are just generally speaking the least enjoyed Call of Duty games. I feel like generally in that community you'll find Ghosts at the very bottom. That was I think 2013. That was like the year the consoles came out.
Yeah, Ghost was 2013. That's right.
But World War II and Advanced Warfare are two that are particularly unloved as well.
Yeah, Advanced Warfare I played. I didn't even play the World War II when I bought it, but I didn't play it. But so anyway, the point I was making was that they're no longer on this 3-team cycle. So skipping every other year means you're just going to get a Treyarch game. And what I'm most curious about is if they're starting to rev up Raven to maybe step in as the third team and switch spots with Sledgehammer, which would be pretty cool because then you would have Infinity Ward, Treyarch, and Raven.
That would be really cool. I would be super interested in seeing a Raven Call of Duty.
Me too.
Although honestly, like, I mean, realistically, it's probably not going to be all that different.
Yeah, I know. Who even knows what's in the spirit of that studio anymore?
Yeah. It's probably like a way different Raven.
Yeah, if you're not into making Call of Duty games, I'm sure a lot of people are really into making Call of Duty games in the development scene. But if you're not into like doing support on Call of Duty, like Raven's probably not going to be a very attractive place for you, unless you're in Wisconsin, which is probably awesome to have a job up there doing that, making good money in a pretty cheap place. But yeah, I would love to see, because I know I've said this so many times, but I think Raven's Singularity, which is basically their last game, is so good. And ironically, it takes place in like a pseudo Cold War. So they're going back to that Soviet era, and we'll keep an eye on that. I assume it will come out in November, and we'll have more information on Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War very soon. Number 3, one PS5 console exclusive has been pushed away from PlayStation 5's planned launch window this holiday season, while another may have been unexpectedly confirmed for that window. For starters, Arcane Studios' Deathloop has been pushed to Q2 of 2021 after being intended for a 2020 release, presumably at PS5's launch. The team wrote on its social media channels in part, quote, "Our ambition for Deathloop is to deliver a signature Arcane game that takes you to never-before-seen places in a stylish new world. At the same time, the health and safety of everyone at Arcane Lyon remains our top priority. As we've adjusted to work from home, we found that delivering this new and exciting experience at the polish and quality level that defines both an Arcane game and a truly next-gen experience is taking longer than normal," end quote. Meanwhile, Bluepoint Games' Demon's Souls remake, which conspicuously lacked a launch window proclamation in its announcement trailer, may be coming sooner than we thought. That's because the game has been rated for release by the Korean Games Rating Board as well as SERO, the Japanese Games Rating Board. The only other PS5 game rated so far in South Korea in particular is Spider-Man Miles Morales. So this could be a first-party and second-party thing, or it could be a sign that Demon's Souls may be ready at or around PlayStation 5's launch. Deathloop from Bethesda-owned Arcane is the studio's 4th exploration of a different IP in its time under the publisher, following 2012's Dishonored and 2016's Dishonored 2, 2017's Prey, and 2019's Wolfenstein Youngblood and Wolfenstein Cyberpilot. The team is split between France and the US. Demon's Souls, on the other hand, comes from Software and was the inauspicious start to what would become the Souls series, Dark Souls and Bloodborne, as well as the Souls-like games that followed. It was first released on PS3 in 2009. Of course, Bluepoint is a Texas-based developer that is well known to PlayStation fans at this point. I got to be honest with you, I didn't even remember that Deathloop was a 2020 game. So when I saw this being circulated, I was like, I kind of assumed it was going to be a 2021 game anyway. It didn't really surprise me. Mm-hmm. The Demon's Souls thing is a little more surprising because I thought they went out of their way not to say when it was going to be ready. But it getting rated doesn't mean it's done.
Yeah.
But it does mean that it's content complete. And that might not be a huge surprise, but it's probably working its way towards being finished. So I'm wondering what you think about Deathloop's delay, and then Demon's Souls maybe more imminent release.
Yeah, I mean that would be great. set up for PS5. The Spider-Man and Demon Souls remake.
It'll be huge.
Yeah, that would be really good. Demon Souls has never been really my thing, so it's something that I'm probably gonna still not. I don't like getting my ass kicked anymore, really. You know, at this point, like, life is doing that enough. You know.
Sure.
So, you know, this is still pretty big. If we find out that it is coming along, like either at launch or like soon after, that's pretty good for Sony. Deathloop is one of those things where it's like I knew it was a 2020 game, but I kind of assumed that it would get delayed anyway, because so many things are getting delayed that I was like, oh, well, there's no way that Deathloop is going to be on track. We've seen so little of Deathloop for a game that's coming out this year that I just sort of assumed immediately, like, based on how far along in the year we had been since we saw it and how long it was pretty obvious to me that it was going to get delayed. So that doesn't really bother me that much. Not really annoyed at that.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think Deathloop sounds really interesting. It is a PS4 console exclusive. I don't know if that's... People are talking like that's permanent. I don't believe that is permanent, but maybe it is. But Sony might have something to say about when this game comes out, and if their games are ready to go, then they might not need a rushed Deathloop, especially because Ratchet will probably be Q1. So there'll be some good stuff there at launch. I was always assuming that it was going to be Spider-Man at launch, and then Ratchet Q1, and then Demon Souls Q2. So we'll find out, because we don't really know a whole lot other, Gran Turismo obviously and stuff, but we don't know a whole lot about what's coming out from the first party otherwise. So we will keep a close eye on this. But Deathloop coming 2021. Number 4, something may be up at British WB-owned studio Rocksteady, the team responsible for the Arkham trilogy of games dating back to 2009, and the devs on the verge of fully revealing their long-in-development DC game Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. A piece published by newspaper The Guardian indicates that alleged so-called quote-unquote staff harassment reported at the studio had gone unpunished, dating back to 2018. The article reads in part, more than half of the women employed at London-based video game developer Rocksteady 2 years ago signed a letter to bosses accusing the studio of failing to prevent sexual harassment and inappropriate behavior in the office. The letter, dated November 2018 and signed by 10 of the company's 16 female staff at the time, raised complaints about behavior, including slurs regarding the transgendered community and discussing a woman in a derogatory or sexual manner with other colleagues, and sexual harassment in the form of unwanted advances, leering at parts of a woman's body, and inappropriate comments in the office. Since then, it is claimed that the response has amounted to one training seminar and that multiple signatories have left the company owing to a lack of action, end quote. Women apparently kept quiet, at least in part, in order to secure their credit in the upcoming Suicide Squad game, which is bound to be an enormous commercial hit. Rocksteady responded to The Guardian's piece with a lengthy post on its social media accounts, noting that of the 10 women who signed that original letter, 8 remain at the studio more than 2 years later. The post, however, apparently represents not the studio, but those 8 women. It notes in part that they, quote, don't feel that the article is a fair representation of us, the events at the time, or since the letter was received, ellipsis. None of the current female employees at the studio who were involved with the letter were contacted about this letter being released to the media until we were informed by the studio. At the time of working through the original letter with the studio, we were assured that this would be kept as a private matter, as this was what we had collectively requested. We feel that our privacy and wishes have been disregarded, and a private matter has been made public. This has left us feeling that we have been violated by the source or sources, as it was kept private for personal reasons to all involved, not due to industry secrecy, end quote. Such a story acts as a distraction not only for WB Interactive and Rocksteady, but for its other brewing Batman project at WB Games Montreal, which is also being actively teased, with details coming imminently. Rocksteady was founded in 2004, and its first game, Urban Chaos Riot Response, came to PS2 and Xbox in 2006. It has since existed entirely in the realm of Batman, with Arkham Asylum and Arkham City coming to PS3 in 2009 and 2011, and Batman Arkham Knight and its Arkham VR companion coming to PS4 in 2005 and 2016, respectively. This is a weird one, Chris. This was getting a lot of people in a tizzy, but it seems like the very women that complained have rebutted the Guardian's interpretation of events. So I'm curious what you make of this situation.
Yeah, I think it's weird that they would do. I can't. Part of me feels like, why would you? What reason would you have to kind of double back on things aside from just sort of getting cold feet? You know, it kind of feels like, maybe like I did complain about this, but maybe like I kind of want this credit, on this game.
Yeah, it could be that. I mean, I'm more compelled by, well, there's one weird thing, like one bad thing and one good thing. So the good thing I'll start with is that 8 of the 10 women are still there.
Yeah.
Which I think is good. The interesting thing that I thought, they're banding around this number of women. According to Wikipedia, 239 people work at Rocksteady, and they had 16 female on staff. Maybe that number has risen since then, but that seems to be, again, I'm not one of these guys that worries deeply about these issues, but that seems to be a real underrepresentation of women based on the makeup of many other AAA studios, where there are many more women than 10 or 15 out of 200 plus. So that might have something to do with it too. And it's funny because Dagan and I, my brother, we do a podcast called Knockback that I know some of you listen to, which is a retro and nostalgia podcast. And we did Batman Arkham Asylum not too long ago. And I was talking about how Harley Quinn in that game in particular is like incredibly sexualized. Now, she is a sexualized character, generally speaking, but they're doing like basically like upskirt shots of her and stuff like that in like cutscenes. And I found that kind of interesting too. So I don't want to speak to I don't know anyone at Rocksteady, but seems weird. It seems like they don't have many women there, and that could help the culture if the culture is toxic at all. But it seems like these women are saying it's not such. What I want to know is like, why do they want to keep it a secret? They said it's not due to industry secrecy. I wonder. Yeah. They say personal reasons. I wonder what those personal reasons might be.
Yeah. I really, maybe, I don't know. Anything would be speculation on our part.
Right. I think this is much to do about nothing, personally. It's just
maybe.
Like, not all these pieces I think amount to much. And if 8 of the 10 women who signed the letter are still there and then wrote a letter disputing what was reported, I think that's about all I need to hear, personally.
Yeah.
But who knows? Number 5, longtime Rockstar staple Lazlow Jones is officially leaving the story developer after 2 decades. Jones joined production of the Grand Theft Auto series beginning with GTA 3 and even did quite a bit of writing for various games, including Red Dead Redemption and Red Dead Redemption 2, LA Noire, and others. However, Lazlow is undoubtedly known most for the radio DJ he plays in most of the GTA games of the last 20 years, and is ubiquitous with the Grand Theft Auto brand, the audio, dialogue, and music from which are legendary, and which Lazlow had quite a bit to do with, from dialogue writing to the design to soundtrack licensing and production. According to Kotaku, this wasn't an announcement that was made publicly, and it was only through an update to his LinkedIn profile that it was revealed that he left Rockstar back in April. Here's the thing. The website keenly points out that Dan Houser, another majorly important driving force behind Rockstar and its primary writer, left Rockstar just the month previous. Anthony Gigi wrote in and said, "Hello, Peep, Big Peep and Little Peep. You guys can decide on who is who." I think we know who the Big Peep is.
Yeah.
News broke that Lazlow, the popular radio host who plays himself in the GTA franchise, is leaving Rockstar after 20 years because of personal reasons. Do you think GTA 6's writing and humor will suffer now that Dan Houser and Lazlow are no longer at the studio? I know he was credited for some of the radio station banter and other satire in the GTA franchise. He's actually a character in GTA 5, like a real character. And I feel like it's going to be hard to replace a memorable character such as himself. Is GTA 6 just going to be GTA Online 2? God, please no. This was surprising to see. Lazlow has been there forever. Are you concerned about this? I feel like their writing talent just left earlier this year. I'm not all of it, obviously, but their lead writers are gone in Dan Houser and in Lazlow Jones.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty big deal. It signals to me, and I don't know if I'm reading into this a bit much, but it signals to me that maybe Rockstar is just going into a more multiplayer focused direction. I mean, especially with GTA Online selling as much as it is, and the fact that GTA Online opened that Sony conference a couple months back is proof enough alone that they're putting a significant amount of resources behind the multiplayer components of GTA to the point where single player probably isn't really that much of a focal point anymore. And even with the release of Red Dead Redemption 2, which is, probably in development before this shift was really solidified, I feel like maybe there's just no room for writers in general, like in the next GTA game. And I wonder if they maybe feel like, it's more about the experience. It's more about the sandbox.
The sandbox. You make your own stories.
Yeah, you make your own stories, which I guess, you do. I mean, that's what GTA Online is. But
sure.
And I got to be real, like I didn't really care for the story in Grand Theft Auto 5 at all. Like, I found everything kind of mundane and not interesting. But, I mean, the people who love those games love them for that for a very specific reason. It's because the stories are, like, funny and they're well written and they're entertaining. And I wonder if they can really live up to the mantle of what they set up for themselves previously with a completely different writing staff, which is what it seems like it's happening now.
Yeah, we'll see. What I'm kind of intrigued by, Chris, with this is with just the kind of 1 + 1 = 2 thing that Kotaku did with Dan Houser, is if Dan Houser and Lazlow Jones reunite and make a studio. I mean, Dan Houser and Lazlow Jones are both serious millionaires, especially Houser. I mean, Houser's probably got hundreds of millions of dollars. And I would assume that he's a hot name. And if these guys are free agents, they can probably unite with a publisher. I mean, maybe even take two and stay in the family. But it would be cool to see them kind of reemerge. It would be nice, since Dan Houser clearly likes writing mostly open world sandbox games, and Lazlow obviously likes humor and satire, for them to reunite and do something single player and under the Take-Two banner, and Take-Two can say, like, listen, we have our Grand Theft Auto type games being made by the guys who made these games for those fans, and then we'll keep Grand Theft Auto Online going with the team that we've since built at Rockstar. Can have the best of both worlds. So I'm keeping a keen eye on these guys and where they lead next. So thank you, LinkedIn detectives, as always. I haven't updated my LinkedIn since I was at IGN, I don't think.
Yeah.
So,
I can't even remember the last time I even went onto LinkedIn.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know my login. So, number 6, a few possible upcoming remasters have potentially leaked via online retailer listings. For starters, website Push Square relays word of a posting of Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered, which briefly appeared on Amazon UK's website for launch not only on PS4 but Switch and Xbox One. The release date on the website, was listed as November 13th, which is a Friday, and could also correspond with the launch of either or both next-gen consoles. I've been saying PS5 is coming either November 13th or November 20th. That's still going to be my bet. This remaster is presumably of the 2010 PS3 and Xbox 360 racer Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, developed by Criterion, the EA-owned team most notable for its Burnout games. It shouldn't be confused with the original Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, which was actually Need for Speed 3 on PS1, released back in 1998 and followed up with a PS2 sequel in 2002. It appears an upcoming Prince of Persia remake is also coming down the pike, according to a Guatemalan online retailer, which briefly showed a listing for Prince of Persia remake on PS4, presumably a remake or remaster of the 2008 PS3 game Prince of Persia from Ubisoft Montreal, though it could conceivably be a few other games in the 3D era as well, as Prince of Persia originally started as a 2D side-scroller back in 1989. Any excitement here at all for you? The Ubisoft thing, I mean, with that happening in September, I assume that's when they're going to announce this Prince of Persia game.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool. But I can't say that I've ever been that much into Prince of Persia, really. There was that leak that happened like a couple months back of that the
canceled game.
Yeah, that looks kind of neat, but it's cool that a game like that is coming back. Maybe that the fact that they're delving into older things like that is kind of cool, because it gives me a little bit more hope for Splinter Cell. That is still kind of, my hope is still very low, but that's certainly like a nice sign.
I gotta say, man, I'm feeling pretty much 100% confident Splinter Cell's getting announced. Yeah, I'm feeling it. I'm just feeling it, you know.
Yeah, sometimes you can't explain how you feel. Sometimes, you know, you just sort of gotta you feel around.
Yeah, I'm feeling it inside my soul.
It's good,
inside my heart. The Need for Speed thing is pretty interesting, though. That's obviously EA. Yeah. And it shows a propensity to remaster games, I think, which might bode well for our Mass Effect remaster. Yeah. Which we might get maybe at the end of the year, which is the rumor. I don't know if that's going to happen or not.
I feel like that'd be a good December game.
That would be a nice December game. You're right. And with the backwards compatibility, it would be fun to play on PS5 if there's a little bit of a lull, which I doubt there will be. This is an interesting one, Chris. Number 7, a brand new PlayStation 3 release just came to Sony's old console, the first in several years, and potentially the very last of its kind. V-Blank Entertainment's old school open world game Shakedown Hawaii came to both PS4 and Vita last year on May 7th. But V-Blank, which is essentially a one-man Canadian studio, also responsible for 2012's Retro City Rampage, which came to PS3 and Vita and later to PS4, has an obsession with releasing their games on as many platforms as possible. For instance, Retro City Rampage was launched on PSP, that's right, PlayStation Portable, in 2016.
Wow.
Along with a Wii release earlier this year. In the same spirit, Shakedown Hawaii has officially been given a PlayStation 3 launch, along with launches on 3DS, Wii U, and the original Wii. PlayStation 3 launched in 2006 when all of 2019 without any sort of launch, and in 2018, there were only a small handful, among them the RPG Rainbow Skies and sports games like FIFA and NBA 2K. PSP launched in 2004 in Japan and 2005 and elsewhere, received its port of Retro City Rampage approximately 12 years after launch. The time between PS3's launch and the Shakedown Hawaii port is approximately 14 years.
That's so wild.
I think it's really cool that they do this.
Yeah.
So there was actually like I was just thinking about this recently. The guy who owns VBlank is named Brian Provinciano, who I actually met a long time ago, and I really liked him. He then had some sort of beef with Greg Miller, my old co-host at IGN and Kind of Funny.
Oh, weird.
And I don't know what it was about, but I just, I took Greg's side, obviously, in that, and I never talked to the dude again, but he's still cranking these games out, and this Shakedown Hawaii game is supposed to be pretty good, although it doesn't have a platinum trophy, which I think is so fucking weird, and that annoys the shit out of me, but I like this kind of stuff. It's like those weird dudes that every so often release like a Dreamcast or a Genesis game. And
yeah. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's neat too. I think it's super cool. The PSP release, I don't know if that was digital only or if he actually got a UMD made. I doubt he did.
It had to be digital. Like, there's no way that they were still making UMDs.
Yeah, I don't think so.
What the hell was that anyway? Was that like a bet? Was that like an HD DVD Blu-ray kind of bet? Like there was a bet going on that like UMD would be like the next major portable. Like what the hell is that?
I don't know. I don't know the story behind UMD. I really don't.
Somebody should do something about that, because that's a genuinely interesting thing that I guess nobody really knows about. Like what the hell UMD is. I'd be curious. I'd read at least a book about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I've never read more about UMD. UMD could refer to all of these different things that I don't. There's not even a UMD. Oh, here it is. Universal Media Disc. A discontinued optical disc medium developed by Sony for the use on a PlayStation Portable, blah, blah, blah. Video storage format. It only held 1.8 gigs. Yeah, I don't think this was anything ever Sony was really trying to push. It was not like the mini disc.
Yeah.
I think it was just for the PSP. I don't think that they were trying to...
super weird, though.
Yeah, it is weird. They were weird, too, because like I always felt like I would always put them in the wrong way. You can't close your PSP when they're in the wrong way, but...
Yeah, they felt really fragile, too.
Yeah, they were like the shaky, if people have never held them, they were like the shaky plastic with almost like a mini CD in it. And yeah, I don't know. It was weird. It was exciting at the time.
Yeah.
But it was a long time ago now. Calvin Kirstein wrote in about this Shakedown Hawaii thing, though. He says, "Hey, Colin and Chris. With the news that Shakedown Hawaii developer VBlank Entertainment has decided to release a version of the game for PS3, this can mean that this is one of the final releases on the console. I wonder what you guys would consider your favorite game on the PS3 generation. It may not necessarily be a game that was well received critically or commercially, but one that perhaps resonated with you the most. For example, Colin, I know you said that Journey is a game that made you shed a tear. For me, it's hard to pick just one. I'd have to choose between The Last of Us, BioShock, Skyrim, and Gran Turismo 5. Can you guys single out one great game, or is that simply too difficult? Thanks and stay safe." It's too difficult for me, Chris, but I will say The Last of Us if I have to choose one. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, on PS3, that's like... I feel like that's a big question, but I feel like I liked I feel like BioShock is definitely up there, just in general.
Yeah, that's a good
BioShock
one.
is one of the best video games of all time, in my opinion.
Certainly.
But definitely, like, I feel like the original Arkham game, Arkham Asylum, was really great. I think Skyrim was pretty huge. Portal 2, outside of the obvious, like, Uncharted, outside of the obvious ones, I feel like Skyrim's probably like a really huge one for me, honestly.
Naughty Bear.
That game has definitely... Naughty Bear. Eat Lead, the Return of Mad Hazard.
Yes.
The classics.
Yes. Yeah.
Far Cry 3. Far Cry 3's...
Oh, Far Cry 3, yeah. Far Cry 3 is a good answer. What was that game that Bethesda put out? Rogue. The really horrible...
Oh my God.
Shooter.
What is
Why can't I think of it? I'm going to look it up real quick.
Rogue. Oh my God.
Rogue Warrior.
That was a Bethesda game?
Yeah, well, Bethesda published it. It was Rebellion made the game.
Oh my God, that's the game with like Mickey Rourke in it, right, or something? Like,
yeah.
And he just curses nonstop the whole time.
Right. Rebellion survived somehow. I mean, well, because they do the Sniper Elite games and the Zombie Army games, which are both.
I mean, they made Rogue Warrior. I mean, how could they fail?
But who the I remember playing Rogue Warrior, and I played it when I was living in an in-law apartment in San Francisco, and I fucking hated it. What I remember is I beat it on the hardest difficulty level and the trophies didn't stack. It was like the ultimate final insult where, usually difficulty trophies stack. So if you play it on hard, you get like the normal and easy trophies, whatever.
Yeah.
I played it on hard and only got the hard trophy. And I was like, fuck this game.
It's just
the worst.
I laughed the entire time. Like, I didn't finish it like at all, but I played a little bit of it and I couldn't stop laughing. It's such a funny game. It
is funny. The ending song is like legendary. If people go look up the end credit song.
Oh, I never got that far. I never saw the ending.
It's so good. It's just basically Mickey Rourke like outtakes in this like electronic music.
That's amazing.
It's really good. It's really good.
I just remember playing it and I took cover and unprovoked there were like no enemies, but Mickey Rourke just says, "Motherfucking goddamn cock-sucking commie motherfuckers." And I was like, what the hell is this? What is it? He's not in combat either. It's just strolling through an empty hallway and it's just cursing the whole time. It's so amusing.
Yeah, it's I with that game I struggled to know if they were like how funny was it supposed to be and how serious was it supposed to be. It was clearly made very quickly. We never heard from Rebellion with Bethesda again. That was during the Bethesda third-party days when they were like publishing splash damage games and shit.
Yeah.
So
I feel like there's no conceivable way that game wasn't at least intended to be somewhat funny. I'm sure there's like
I think it was definitely intended to be somewhat funny. I just want to know how funny was it supposed to be.
Like whether or not it's like Starship Troopers the movie or Starship Troopers the book.
Right. That's so funny you brought that up because I loved Starship Troopers when I was a kid and I didn't even understand the movie at all. But it was because it was just way over my head.
No, the movie's a complete joke. The movie's basically just like this parody of the book. Yeah,
they would do like these fascist army recruitment videos and it was really I was in 8th grade when that came out. The little
kid who's like, I'm doing my part too.
Right, it was so weird. Yeah, the book was I got the book from this book club thing I used to be like the sci-fi book club with that when I was really nerdy. I'm not so nerdy anymore.
That is very nerdy.
All right. Number 8. As it does each month, the MPD Group has released sales data for the American games market, this time for July of 2020. The best-selling game in the US for the month was PS4 exclusive Ghost of Tsushima, with Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Paper Mario the Origami King, or as they would say in Heavy Rain, Origami. The Last of Us Part 2 and Animal Crossing New Horizons rounding out the top 5. It's worth noting that both Nintendo releases don't count digital sales, and so they are both likely higher on the chart. Other notable games in the top 20 include Sword Art Online, Alicization, Lycoris at 10, which is surprising, MLB The Show 20 at 15, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order at 16, and Spider-Man at 18. If you count only PlayStation 4 software, whether exclusive or just by SKU, the top 10 best-selling games on the platform for the month in the US were in order: Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us Part 2, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Minecraft, MLB The Show 20, Mortal Kombat 11, Spider-Man, Need for Speed Heat, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and Sword Art Online, Alicization, Lycoris. Call of Duty Modern Warfare is 2020's best-selling game so far. PS4 exclusive games The Last of Us Part 2, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, and MLB The Show 20 slot in at numbers 3, 4, 5, and 7, respectively. In addition to the sales data, Capcom has revealed that Resident Evil 7, first launched in 2017 on PS4 and elsewhere, is officially the best-selling Resident Evil game of all time, according to website Push Square, while the site also relays word from publisher Square Enix that the recently released action RPG Trials of Mana has, quote-unquote, significantly surpassed the publisher's expectations.
Oh, that's nice.
So, yeah, that's nice to see. Trials of Mana, I don't know. I'll get there eventually. It's not something I'm really that excited to play.
Yeah.
I've never been into the Seiken Densetsu Mana games that much.
Yeah, you're telling me.
I know. And then finally, number 9. It's a wrap-up. Publisher Bandai Namco confirmed on the official PlayStation blog that its previously leaked at one-time Xbox exclusive MMO RPG Bless Unleashed is indeed coming to PS4 with a closed beta currently underway. A Chinese-developed hack-and-slash game called Black Myth Wukong has been announced for PlayStation platforms, though it's unclear when it'll come out. People should go check this game out. This game looks fucking great. Black Myth Wukong, being made by a Chinese developer. Website Gamatsu reports that co-op game Unrailed is coming to PS4 on September 23rd, that dungeon crawler Going Under is coming to PS4 on September 24th, that action RPG Torchlight 3 is officially slated to come to PS4 this fall, that puzzle platformer Anirike, I think it is coming to PS4 in early 2021, that side-scroller Fallen Knight is coming to PS4 in early 2021, that puzzle game Projection First Light is coming to PS4 on September 29th, and that horror game Sense, a cyberpunk ghost story, is coming to both PS4 and Vita this fall. Website Push Square reports that the Stanley Parable's long-awaited Ultra Deluxe Edition for PS4 has been delayed and will now come at some point in early 2021. Developer IO Interactive has revealed that its upcoming game Hitman 3 will not include the 1v1 competitive multiplayer ghost mode introduced in Hitman 2, and that Hitman 2's ghost mode is being shut off for all current owners of the game as of August 31st. I guess no one cared about it. Publisher Electronic Arts revealed that its upcoming soccer game FIFA 21 will not support crossplay between any consoles, though saves can be carried over between current-gen and next-gen consoles of the same vertical. So PS4 to PS5, Xbox One to Xbox Series X. Fan favorite Untitled Goose Game from developer House is getting a second playable goose as well as co-op, both coming for free this September. Ubisoft has confirmed that Assassin's Creed Valhalla's director Ashraf Ismail has been fired after an internal investigation. He was initially put on administrative leave. And finally, as rumored, Electronic Arts subscription service EA Access has indeed been renamed to EA Play, though nothing else has changed. And that is it for the news.
All right.
Chris, let's get into the new game releases. There are a few here that we don't have to make things up about. Arcade Archives Burger Time and Arcade Archives Lightning Fighters are both 80s. Arcade games Peaky Blinders Mastermind is a strategy game based on the Peaky Blinders show, and UFC 4 is obviously a fighting game based on the UFC. But we have a bunch of others to get through, and tradition dictates that you go first.
All right. Air hockey comes to PS4. This is air hockey, you know? It's not really... I feel like you should all know what air hockey is. Let me just assume. Let me look this up, because I wonder if this is like some kind of some trippy, like, oh, it's hockey, but in the air, literally.
Right.
Which would be kind of cool, admittedly.
I feel like there was a Vita game that was a real air hockey game. I had an air hockey table as a kid, which I really loved as well.
Oh, apparently there are like several of these games, so like...
whatever. Who the hell... Yeah, who cares? Who knows? All right. Air hockey, PS4. Big Dipper is coming to PS4. Big Dipper is about a woman named Cleo, and she works in a candy factory, and she is overweight. She's portly, but she's been working there for a long time in this factory, and she is at one of the people at the end of this conveyor belt where she dips this concoction of, what is it, Nugent? Is that what nougat? Nougat, right?
Did you just say Nugent?
Yeah, Nugent's a name. Nougat is a food, right? Do I have it backwards?
No, you're right.
No,
nougat
right,
is a food.
right. So she dips the nuts and the nougat and all those kinds of things into the chocolate, and they refer to her colloquially in the factory as Big Dipper, the Big Dipper, because she's fat.
Oh yeah.
So it's about her, the Big Dipper.
Of course.
Cleo.
Yeah.
Right.
Cave Digger comes to PS4. What will you do when faced with a mountain undefaced? Dig a cave, of course. Harvest mine, and dig up all sorts of stupid resources for your city of some kind. It's a cave digging extravaganza. Come on, let's go cave digging. That's Cave Digger in PS4.
Right on.
All right.
Even the Ocean comes to PS4.
Even the Ocean
comes to PS4. And it's about it's basically a story about, well, even the ocean this, even the ocean that, right? So a young child says, like, I don't want to go to bed. And then the dad says, even the ocean has creatures that must go to bed at a certain time, son. Or you walk in and you don't really want to eat the seaweed that's on your ramen. But the dad tells the child, but even the ocean has seaweed that is eaten.
So it's like an interactive, like, nursery rhyme, kind of.
Right, exactly. Like this even the ocean is actually a canceled Wonder Book game from the PS3.
Oh, good. I'm glad it's getting a second shot.
I know, really late in the PS4 generation.
Fuzzball comes to PS4. This is a game about a man who hasn't shaved in a long time because he's quarantined in his apartment. You have to go around your labyrinthian apartment building and collect all of the razors that are missing from your expensive shaving kit in order to finally get this monstrosity off your face. And by the end, the irony is, you've lost all of your hair from stress. That's the twist ending.
That's it's fucked up that you told us the ending of the game. You spoiled it.
I mean, you weren't going to play it anyway, so who cares?
No, I wasn't. Griffin Knight Epic Definitive Edition comes to PS4. Griffin Knight Epic is exactly what it sounds like. You're a Griffin Knight. It's an epic, and this is the definitive edition of the game. What's ironic about this is that it's the first edition of the game. It's never been released anywhere else before, so they're really confident in this Griffin Knight Epic by calling it literally just straight out, this is the definitive edition of our game. Yeah. They're not going to patch it. They have nothing to fix.
They're done.
They're done. Griffin Knight Epic Definitive Edition, PS4.
Horror Adventure comes to Jesus. Wow, comes to PS4. This is presumably a scary adventure game in which you have a little adventure and you get scared a lot. It's probably a little girl who you can't really make out her face right away because her hair is in front of her eyes and all that. She's probably in grayscale. You know, maybe there's like a knock at the door, but then you open the door real quick and oh wow, there's nobody there. Wow. Horror Adventure comes to PS4.
Yeah, it's a horrible name.
It's really not good.
Hunt comes to PS4. So you guys all know about the game Hunt Showdown. Bit of a hit with people on Xbox One and here on PS4 and PC. But Hunt is the prequel to Hunt Showdown. And it tells the story of a guy named Keith, who's one of the hunters in the game. And it's about how he found himself in the showdown to begin with, the Hunt Showdown. So Hunt is a cheap and affordable and accessible prequel that gets you involved in that ecosystem, that IP, that license.
Kawaii Desu Desu comes to PS4 and PS Vita. I don't even have to make anything up for this because I can already tell what this is. This is definitely like a cutesy anime beat 'em up. Presumably, I don't know. Presumably, like maybe there's like a Grim Reaper character or something with like Deathu or something. That is so obviously what this is. I hope I'm right. But, I would assume that I am.
It is. I'm watching a video now. Yeah, new idols join the competition. Yeah, it's exactly right. It's a beat 'em up.
Of course it is.
Oh man, well done. Even when we try to make fun of the games, we can't actually do it properly. Manifold Garden comes to PS4. Manifold Garden. So of course the word manifold means many, several. So Manifold Garden is about having many gardens and about being a gardener. And it's not like you're a gardener full time at some stately plantation or something like that, or some estate. Instead, you have many gardens to attend to because you're just a working class, hardworking kind of guy, and you got to go to all these different. It's kind of like a management game. You know, it's Monday, 9 a.m. These are the gardens you have to go take care of today on Monday. Then it's Tuesday, and these are the gardens. And it's just about living that life. It's kind of like Paperboy in that regard. So that's Manifold Garden.
Okay. Mortal Shell comes to PS4. I actually kind of vaguely know what this is because I saw Sophia tweeting about it.
Yeah,
occasionally. Yeah. This looks like it's like it's like a smaller studio, and they just sort of took their shot at making like a Dark Souls type of game, and I mean that not in the way that like you read a Polygon article and they say like Crash Bandicoot is like Dark Souls because it's hard. I mean like literally it looks kind of like a Soulsborne game with all the traditional staples and like kind of like boss mechanics and Estus flasks and all that kind of stuff. It looks kind of cool. I hear it's like just a little bit janky, but I hear a lot of people are liking it. So that might be something worth paying attention to. It actually looks really good for a small studio having made it.
Well, do you want to take the next one since you knew what that was? Or do you want me to take
sure.
It?
Norman's Great Illusion comes to PS4 and PS Vita. This is about Norman Reedus.
Wow.
Imagining he has all these dreams about being approached by developers to make games about him. And they're all fake. And then he wakes up at the end and it turns out to be Kojima, who's actually just like talking to him in his bed while he's asleep. Asking for permission to make Death Stranding, and obviously that happened.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's kind of like a biography almost, in a weird way.
A video game biography. You don't really get that very often.
That sounds like it would be kind of cool, honestly.
Yeah, it does. Of Tanks and Demons 3 comes to PS4. So this is one of those games that's tries to be cutesy by putting numbers at the end, even though it's the first game in the series. So it's not the third game. It's just Of Tanks and Demons, and they call it Of Tanks and Demons 3 to get your attention. But it's just a joke, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a bullet hell game, top down. Think something like Jackal back on NES, something like that. And you're basically just trying to survive. It's incredibly gruelingly difficult. You're in the tanks. You're fighting the demons. It doesn't unfortunately go the other way around. So that's of Tanks and Demons 3.
Pathfinder Kingmaker Definitive Edition comes to PS4. This is the definitive edition of Pathfinder, which is presumably... I feel like I know what Pathfinder is vaguely.
I think it's a role-playing, like a paper and pencil role-playing game.
Yeah.
I think.
So,
Yeah.
well, this is the definitive edition of that. Find your path and make yourself a king.
Right.
In not literally you, like you have to fashion a king out of clay and origami and stuff like that. And you make a king, and then he rules over you. And let's hope he likes you. But that's Pathfinder Kingmaker Definitive Edition on PS4.
Seems like a lot of things are out of your. It almost sounds like a roguelike. Like a lot of things are out of your hands here in this particular.
Yeah, you have no power
game.
or agency.
Rusty Gun comes to PS4. So Rusty Gun was inspired by Far Cry 2, and it's all about your gun jamming. In fact, the only weapon you have in the game is a jammed gun and a knife, and you have to decide what you want to do with it. You want to beat the enemy with the rusty gun. You want to kill the enemy with a slash from your knife. That's your only decision. All you know for sure is that gun is not going to fire because it is the Rusty Gun on PS4.
Spiritfarer comes to PS4. You play a man who has just eaten 18 Five Guys burgers in a row, and he's on his deathbed. His heart is exploding, and you have to. Your soul wakes up, and you just sort of step out of your own body, and the whole game is just about you. Trying to find some way to experience the bliss of the taste of a Five Guys burger now that you don't have a body or organs with which to taste. And it's a whole quest about just trying to get back to the real world so you can indulge in the pleasures of the flesh.
Wow, I wouldn't have gotten that from the name Spiritfarer.
No.
Sounds deep.
It's pretty deep.
And finally, Train Sim World 2 comes to PS4. So I know this. You think that what this is the name suggested, but it's actually underneath a gratuitously sexualized beach volleyball game that almost got an AO rating, and they've basically hidden it behind this really innocuous name, Train Sim World 2. But if you know better, you know that when you get it, you're going to basically get a Team Ninja type dead or alive volleyball, bouncing breasts, all sorts of things going on in Train Sim World 2 on PS4. It's fucked up. All right, Chris.
That's it.
It's the end of the episode. We always end with 6 questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, and ideas from the audience over on Patreon, patreon.com/ColinsLastStand. If you're kind enough to support us financially, we really appreciate it. Brandon wrote in and said, "Hey, CNC, this is less of a question and more so just an encouragement. You guys have discussed plenty of times about how the point in time we play a game can impact our opinion on it or enjoyment of it. I know Colin has said he's experiencing this right now with Ghost of Tsushima, and just wanted to encourage you guys not to feel like you have to rush through the game to do the spoiler cast. I think it's a game Colin would really love if played at the proper time, but as always, do whatever you want." Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Brandon. I wanted to read this out, Chris, because some of the audience feels like let me back up. I feel a lot of pressure from just particular people in the audience. It's just, some vocal people about needing to keep up with the Joneses, as it were, trying to play all these games. I just don't have the time, inclination, patience, or wherewithal to play games like that. I got to play what I'm feeling at the time. And oftentimes it's a new game, but many times it's not. And so I am feeling Ghosts more now, and we are going to do the spoiler cast, so that's coming up. But just wanted to say that, we're going to continue to play the games that we want to play. Sometimes it's not going to be up to other people's schedules, but we're going to continue to do the best we can, especially because we don't really get early access to games. We don't really want early access to games. I don't want to deal with publishers. I want to be totally outside of the ecosystem. But have you felt any pressure to play anything since you've joined this show? Since we started the show, I should say.
Not real. I think the main thing was Red Dead. When Red Dead was out, that was a really stressful time, because that was I had never really finished a Rockstar game because I just didn't have the patience. They were all always so long, and it was just I was never really that into them. So when I was when it came off to oh yeah, you got to finish Red Dead Redemption 2, and it's obscenely long, and it's oh my God, this is kind of a lot. But I ended up really loving that game, and I didn't actually mind. It's always nice when the pressure to finish something kind of coincides with your desire to finish it anyway.
Yeah.
So that was one of those rare moments where that kind of happened, but not really. I'd say that I just sort of play what I want when I want to, because otherwise I feel like when you're forced to play things, you're kind of inherently in a situation where you're doing a disservice to the game that you're playing. You know, you're kind of already in a situation where the game has to fight to win you over. Whereas opposed to, you know, if you check something out because you want to, that's not something that the game has to win you over on. And I just think it's a more fair way to play games than it is to just like rush into something because it's relevant or because it's, you know, new and you want to be a part of the conversation or any other reason why you would be forced into playing something that you otherwise might not be playing immediately or might have just gotten to later on down the line and possibly had a more positive outlook on.
Yeah, I'll also say that, I mean, it's to your point, you just get the best Colin and Chris when you let us play what we want to play. You get the most authentic, the most earnest. And it's just, if I wanted to work at IGN, I'd still be there. You know, I don't want to play like that anymore. It's just not fun for me. And so I don't feel like I need to play every single game that comes out. If you look at my trophies, which is a really nice chronology of the games I've played, you'll find that I used to play way more games 2008, 2009, all the way through 2014 or 2015. And then I stopped playing so many games. Then I really started just delving in to experiences and feeling like I needed to have less of a spread shot. And it wasn't realistic. Like when I was at IGN and PSN was really a nascent thing, there would be like one game a week released on it. It was really possible for you to like play everything. It's just not possible anymore. Mm-hmm. And so I've let go of that. And I also just think that we got to be true to ourselves. I keep up with the news. I keep up with the industry. I'm interested in all of that. I often play a lot of the biggest games when they come out, but I appreciate the notion that you're putting forth here, Brandon. I only feel it from select people though. Mm-hmm. So Nick Eden wrote in, I promised you we would get back to this topic, and we are. He says, hello, gents. It's been a while since Days Gone has been out, and I'm only asking because I recently just started it up. What is your opinion of this game? I'm personally loving it. About 25 hours in. Have a great weekend. Chris, you and I have been divided on this game since it came out.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, has your opinion softened on it at all, or do you feel pretty much the same way?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I think that might have been another example. That might have been a more indicative example of something that like I was kind of in a situation where like I kind of had to play it, and I was like, oh man, I'm not into this at all. I feel like zombie games in general have a really hard time winning me over because I just find the setup so trite and so kind of overdone and inherently not lazy, but I just feel like we're at a point now where like a zombie game, and we've been here for a while, where a zombie game just sort of feels like the obvious thing to do if you just kind of want to make something, because I really don't feel like it's difficult to make a good zombie game, or like at least a competent zombie game that you can play around with. Like you look back at like the first Dead Rising, and it's technically impressive with the amount of zombies that they could fit on screen, but as like a video game, like I don't know if the original Dead Rising is really all that amazing of a video game. No, you know, as far as like gameplay goes, and as far as like progression goes, or level design, or like encounter design, or mission design, or any of that, I feel like it's all kind of okay. So when Days Gone came out, and like I was expecting The Last of Us soon after that was before it got like obscenely delayed, I think. You know, I was just looking at it where I'm like, this just isn't going to be more high quality than The Last of Us, and it doesn't seem to be drawing me in at all. I don't really care for like the biker setup. I liked the way Oregon looks. I like the environment. I think it's like a really unique place to be. But the gameplay loop, I just wasn't into. The resource management that is usually the thing that grabs me about survival based games that kind of lend themselves a little bit better to the zombie genre in general, just weren't really there. I don't know. I think I just have a bias against zombie games in general. Even Dying Light, which like is a really fun game. Like I never finished Dying Light because it's zombies again. Like I'm having fun and I'm enjoying like the parkour system, and like hitting people with like these ridiculous weapons is a lot of fun. But I can only see so many zombies before I'm just like, all right, I've seen this.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion on it hasn't changed very much. I was more curious to hear what you think.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Right. I don't think it's like the worst game ever made, but I definitely think it's probably the weakest Sony first-party game.
Interesting. Well, we'll save that for when we finally rank the first-party games, which we'll do when the time is right, and not a moment before. So it's gonna be a little while yet until we get to that.
Yeah.
Cedric S wrote into us and said, "Hey, Chris, S, Preston, and Colin, Theodore, Logan." I don't get that at all.
That's Bill and Ted.
Oh, I haven't seen Bill and Ted in 25 years, so I would have never known that. I would have never made that connection. There is a third one coming out, though, right? So maybe I'll have to catch up with that at some point.
Yeah, maybe.
He says, "I have a question about dev kits. Does the developer keep the dev kit after the game is made? A company as big as Ubisoft has several on hand, I would assume, but a company as small as, say, Lilimo Games, who makes a game every few years, do they have to request a dev kit every time they want to make a game, or do they get to keep the dev kit they already have as long as the next game is already in development? Thanks, guys, for making each week suck a little less." So I thought I would answer this one for Cedric here, Chris. Dev kits, first of all, dev kits are really common. Usually what a dev kit is, there are differences between dev kits and test kits. At least there were. I don't know how it works anymore, maybe on the new consoles. But you can find PS2s that instead of PS2 on the side, it literally says test in that font, which is pretty cool. And so there are all these different kits that you get. And you could also spec your PCs to make these games as well, which is what a lot of developers do. But development kits basically go out in huge chunks to these developers, often dozens or scores of them at a time. And usually you sign a contract for these dev kits that puts like an enormous amount of money on each of them so that you don't share them, you don't lose them, whatever the case might be. And I only know this because at IGN we had dev kits. I had my own dev PS3 and dev PS4, so I can play early games. PSP and Vita you could play early games on without dev kits, but you needed these test units to be able to play games early. And so that's the only reason I know that. But what's funny about this, Cedric's two things. Number one, Lilimo, I think we have a PS4, a Vita, and a Switch. But that's up in Canada with Barry, and he can answer that more acutely. But the other thing that's funny about this is that, and I know this just from my experience with Sony, I don't know how Microsoft or Nintendo were about it. Actually, I can answer a little bit about Nintendo. But we had a bunch of PS2, PS3, and PS4 dev kits over time at IGN, and they would make a really big deal about giving them to us and like taking care of them, and then they would just forget they existed. Like we couldn't give the PS2 and PS3 dev kits back to Sony after a while. Like they didn't want them.
Yeah.
And so you would just have a bunch of these things floating around, and we actually were able to manipulate the PS3 dev kit to give us trophies on in progress games and stuff. It was a fun moment for us messing around with these machines. Nintendo though would actually nail and bolt the 3DS, the Wii, the Wii U, and everything to a desk, and they would have to come in and do this, and you had like one dev kit to use in the office at IGN, for instance. And you couldn't move it, you couldn't capture off of it, you couldn't do like shit with it. And they were like totally nuts about it. They would literally lock them down.
That's crazy.
So yeah, so that was, I hadn't thought about that in a while, but it just came to mind as we were answering that. So I hope that answers your question, Cedric. Toast9 wrote in and said, "Hey, CM Punks, this question is for Comrade Colin." I think Chris can answer this one too, though.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe in separating the art from the artist? On many occasions now, you have stated that you refuse to play Disco Elysium due to the politics of the game devs. Do you extend this policy to other mediums outside of video games? Would you say you do not listen to Rage Against the Machine due to their radical Marxist politics? If you're looking for something to play on the fancy new PC of yours, then you really should give that game a shot. This is tough for me. I'm a huge Rage Against the Machine fan, actually. Mm-hmm. And it's tough for me because I was a fan of theirs long before I even knew what they were singing about or rapping about, because I was a little kid when I was introduced to the first record. But I think it's a thing of degrees, and I think it also changes. And I think I might be a little too hard on Disco Elysium in this regard, because like I've read Mein Kampf, right?
Yeah.
And I've read like the Little Red Book and stuff like that. And it's like, these are horrible books by horrible people, but you're curious about what they say. You don't separate the politics of, in this case, Mein Kampf and Adolf Hitler. You don't separate the politics of it, but it's still a piece of interesting, in this case, literature, I guess, mm-hmm. that you read to understand things or to have a better view of the world or whatever the case might be, or what went down.
Right.
And so I know a book that often comes up actually in this regard is a book called The Turner Diaries, which was written in the 70s and was written by like white supremacists and is basically like considered the Bible of like the very far American right. That they find like copies of these books in in like Timothy McVeigh's house and shit like that. And it's a book that like you probably wouldn't want to read except for that you're curious about it regardless of the person's politics, because you kind of want to know where their minds are at.
Right.
These are of course extreme examples, but I'm just bringing those things up to kind of paint a picture. For me personally, the reason I wanted to bring up Toast 9's question today is because I used to love a band called the Lost Prophets out of Wales. And it was discovered maybe 10 years ago now that the singer of the band was basically like raping babies.
Yeah.
Like, and
some crazy shit.
Yeah, like really like just beyond the pale crazy shit. And I swore them off. I'm like, I'm never going to listen to these guys again. I felt bad for everyone else in the band. They did make another band. I never listened to them. But interestingly, because YouTube's algorithm's so smart, and it must have figured out that like I would like Lost Prophets. And so when I went to my home screen a couple months ago on my phone app, a Lost Prophets video came up for, I don't know what it was, like Fake Sound of Progress or something. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch this. I haven't listened to this. I haven't heard this in forever. And I felt really uncomfortable doing it because I couldn't separate the guy from the message, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm sorry, the guy from what he did. And unlike Mein Kampf or something like that, which is like a piece of history written by an historical figure or something, and you kind of get what it is. This was a guy that was like hiding in plain sight doing these terrible things. And so I think that you have to kind of judge things as they come. Do they have historical value? Do they have social value? Do they give you context or whatever the case might be? And then how severe are the politics compared to that, right? So you have a situation where like Adolf Hitler is one of the very worst people that's ever existed, but his book is still very notable. And you probably want to check it out if you want to have an understanding of what happened. But with something like Disco Elysium, it's a video game. It doesn't really mean anything. And you have these guys kind of flippantly saying Marxist things and having Marxist iconography in their office. And that, to me, is a bridge too far because it has no historical relevance. These guys seem like they're just communists, basically. And so am I making sense where I just feel like you have to kind of delve through the question in a way that makes the most sense for the specific item that you're talking about? So I don't think that there's a hard and fast rule to separating this out, but I'm curious how you deal with it, Chris. I'm a right-wing person. You come from the left. Mm-hmm. So we deal with these things in a different way, but are you able to separate these things? Do you separate them? Is there any relevance to the creator and the artwork to you at all? Or is it all kind of just a wash?
If it's like, if it's like somebody's like raping babies, I feel like that is something that like, yeah, I probably wouldn't make an effort to like listen to a band again. But also I think the Mein Kampf example is kind of, I understand what you mean, but I also feel like it's a little bit different because you're not supporting Adolf Hitler. You know what I mean? Like when you buy Mein Kampf, like Hitler's not around to profit from that sale. So like playing Disco Elysium, like or not playing a game by a developer that has extreme politics that you disagree with, I think is kind of fine because the logic of what you're doing is I don't want to support that vision, or I don't want to support that policy or those politics in a direct financial way, which is kind of what you're doing when you buy something or when you like stream something or any of that. But for me, generally speaking, if something is good, I'm kind of gonna want to try it out, especially if it's like something that would be to my taste. Disco Elysium is a game that I have no doubt is probably very good. A lot of people that I know really like it. It's also in a genre though that isn't necessarily the most appealing to me, so I'm not in any like rush to check it out. But as far as like politics goes, I feel like even some crazy far right dude, if some crazy far right dude who's like just way beyond the pale made something like on the PlayStation Store or wherever the hell, and people were saying interesting things about it, I think I might be curious enough to be like, all right, what is this really?
Yeah, it's very open-minded. It's a very open-minded way to go.
Yeah. I don't know. That's my own personal line though. Like I feel like everybody has their own kind of lines that they draw.
Right.
And
well,
I think that's fine.
That's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing is that it's. I think it's up to each person. I think the Rage Against the Machine thing is interesting because, and I brought this up on Twitter in the past and stuff because I am a fan of the band. I just love rap rock, and they're one of the pioneers of it. Is they're the four members of Rage Against the Machine are massive hypocrites. And I identify that. And I think we all know that. They don't live up to anything they rap about or sing about. They're multimillionaires. They live in LA. They live in mansions. They're full of shit. And I can vibe with that because I'm like, if I can listen to the music and let the message go because I know the message clearly doesn't mean that much to you. You know, that's kind of the way I look at Rage Against the Machine, because otherwise they would just donate all of their profits to revolutionary organizations and live in tents in, you know, on Skid Row or whatever. You know, it's like, I just think that they're full of shit. So I don't mind being a hypocrite. You know what I mean? Like with them. Yeah, so that's a case by case basis kind of thing for me. But that self-titled Rage Against the Machine album is woo, good shit. Mike Wolford wrote into us and said, hey, Eastside Colin and Westside Chris, I just completed a second playthrough of the 2018 God of War with my 16-year-old daughter who loves mythology. She then wanted to see one of the original 3 games, and I discovered I had the remastered version of God of War 3 thanks to PlayStation Plus in my library. I downloaded the game and fired it up. It was then that I realized that I had completely forgotten that the first 3 God of Wars were super linear, fixed camera affairs that only used the R stick to dodge. While it took a little getting used to, I found myself thoroughly enjoying the experience. My question is this: with the emphasis on open world and quasi-open world games featured so prominently today, will there ever be a place for the linear fixed camera games like God of War or Devil May Cry of years past? I would throw Onimusha in there as well. Thanks for all the entertainment and keep fucking that chicken. What do you think, Chris? This is kind of in your wheelhouse here. God of War has changed. Devil May Cry has changed. We haven't seen Onimusha recently, so we don't know if that would ever change.
I mean, Devil May Cry, the new Devil May Cry is still kind of a fixed camera affair.
Oh, is it? I thought that that was a free camera in Devil May Cry.
I mean, it kind of is. Like, I think it both is, and it's been a while since I played it, but I remember there were sections where the camera would be a little bit more fixed. You still have control over your camera, but it's still kind of does its own thing also. You just have a finer amount of control over it. I don't necessarily think that a free camera, you know, is something that breaks games like that. I still think you can have a linear affair with a free camera, and I think that'd be fine. I feel like a lot of games have that. But, I mean, we have a new Crash game coming out. You know, like I'm sure there's more, like, linear games coming down in the pipeline, especially, I think, with the emerging middle market coming back. I think you're going to see a lot more, like, weird kind of middle market takes on either like older series that might not have seen light of day in a while, or maybe even some new series or series that don't necessarily have any kind of expectation to not be non-linear or open world or whatever. I feel like the existence of a new Crash game is really all I need to convince me that, like, oh yeah, we're gonna see more of this. Because typically when something is released, you have people who are inspired by that and make their own kind of take on it. So the fact that so many games that have come out, like, since Crash Bandicoot were kind of like loosely inspired by it, I think is going to happen again. And I think there's always going to be room for games like that, especially in the indie and like middle market scene.
Yeah, maybe we'll get out of the aforementioned Embracer group that we focused on a lot last week. It's funny that God of War 15 years ago was a technological marvel that was all about like where games were going to go. And now it is a piece of archaic history in this industry. I think there are a lot of reasons why the camera is fixed in these games. A lot of it has to do with what's rendered and things that are pre-rendered and not having to use too much of the processing power to see something from every angle and whatever and little tricks and like that. But a lot of it had to do with the camera getting stuck constantly in the geometry, which is not so much a problem anymore. I don't know what developers did to fix that problem, but it's pretty unusual to get a camera hitch anymore on things. Actually, Ghost of Tsushima sticks out to me because the camera is really messy in that game, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
And you don't see that very often anymore. It's just not a thing that happens anymore. So I think once the camera became more free and unencumbered from geometry and developers figured out with more advanced engines and middleware how to make this work better, I think that's why we moved away from that stuff. And also, I mean, I'm thinking about the original Devil May Cry. I can't really, and I just played the original Onimusha not too long ago. These games often take place in really contained areas too, where a camera would just constantly get stuck. So,
yeah, they're in like staircases and
right,
yeah, like atriums and like really small, kind of cramped locales,
and also in that old 4:3 aspect ratio as well.
Oh yeah,
Some
which is even more cramped.
Yeah, I don't know. The original God of War might be in native widescreen, but the original Devil May Cry is definitely not a native widescreen game. So it's too old. Finally, Kyle Eastman wrote in and said, "Hey, CNC, I have a question regarding patches. I've been playing Crosscode on PS4. I can't wait to play that game. I really want to play it. It looks great. And have roughly 30 hours in it. I've been really enjoying the game, but I've come across a game-breaking bug with no way to fix it until it's patched. The devs are saying that they submitted the patch weeks ago and are still waiting for PlayStation to approve it. What has your experience been with Twin Breaker and getting patches delivered? What's the usual turnaround time? Thanks for everything you do and keep up the fantastic work." So another question that I can answer, Chris, quickly to give people a little bit of insight. There must be different layers of patching, because when we patched Twin Breaker, which I think we patched it 4 times, we literally uploaded the patches and they were put up. Like, I remember it was like in the middle of the night one night when we put up the first patch or the second patch, and all of our patches were to fix trophies, by the way, which is something we learned a lot about. We were disappointed that we had to patch it so many times. But I remember Barry setting the patch live in DevNet, and it was like immediately showing up on the PSN. And like, we didn't have to go through a QA, or no one even looked at it. And so I don't know if it's because we have a small game. Crosscode is a smaller game too, but much more popular than Twin Breaker. I don't know if it depends on what how you submit it, if it's fixing something where they have to look at it, or if it's just fixing something quick like we were fixing. It's just like, whatever, just put it up. So There must be different rules, but I can tell you that I'm always a little befuddled by, and I think that's like the 4th time I've used that word today.
It's a good word.
It is a good word. I'm always confused though when developers talk about submitting their patches and waiting, because that was not our experience. I'm not saying that it's not the experience that others have, but I sometimes wonder, not with Crosscode, but with other devs, where I'm like, did you really patch it? Because it shouldn't be stuck in QA for this long, if at all. And I just don't know if it's because Barry has published games on PlayStation before, so we have some level of trust in the back end. I don't know. But I can tell you with Twin Breaker, our patches were published immediately. And I think that they were published on Vita a little latent, just because there's a different, a more archaic system in place there. But you're basically supposed to be able to update your PS4 games on the fly whenever you want. That was our experience. And so I that's all I can answer. But my assumption is that with the Crosscode guys, if it's fixing something that's fundamentally broken, it probably does need to enter QA of some sort. Although again, our trophies worked, but they were not unlocking. Like, we had a weird bug with one of our trophies when you beat the game, where you had to watch the full cutscene to get it. Oh. Like weird shit like that where it was happening. It wasn't like none of the trophies were popping. It was just that and one of the trophies is actually broken in a way where you can really take advantage of it. Probably the hardest trophy in the game, which is to beat the game on New Game Plus. You can beat the game just on the last stage on New Game Plus and get the gold trophy. That was something we had to fix. The unfortunate thing for people out there that are playing it on PS4 and Vita is that you cannot download it without the full new patch, so you can't manipulate it anymore. So too bad for you. Too bad for you. I manipulated it, but it's my game.
It's fucked up. I love that.
All right. Chris, that's all we have for this episode of Sacred Symbols of PlayStation Podcast.
Oh, well, so it is.
I hope everyone enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed yourself, Chris, and that you're doing well. You said you had a long day ahead of you. You're drinking your coffee.
Dude, my coffee is still hot.
Wow.
Isn't that insane?
We've been going for 2 hours. Yeah, that's incredible.
You know why? Because I got, this isn't sponsored or anything, but I swear, I'm using, this Yeti mug or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
It's insane. I just don't understand how this works.
Thermal dynamics, I guess. Something like that. Some fancy name.
Yeah.
Is how I'll
Quantum
explain
dilation or something.
Quantum dilation, indeed. All right, Chris. Well, let's say goodbye to everyone. I hope everyone out there is doing well, and we want to appreciate and thank you again for your, or show appreciation for your kindness and your generosity to us, whether on free feeds or on Patreon. We'll be back for more Sacred Symbols next week, and of course, Sacred Symbols Plus only on Patreon. Yes, Ghost of Tsushima is coming next.
Yeah,
so,
I'm excited.
Thank you for your patience, and just stop.
We're playing it.
You know who you are. Just cut the shit. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Take care, guys.
Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is a product of and a registered trademark of Colin's Last Stand, LLC, and is recorded from Richmond, Virginia, and Burbank, California, USA. This show is conceived by, is written by, and is produced by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-host is Chris Raygun. You can find me on Twitter at NoTaxation and on Instagram at CLS Moriarty. Chris is on Twitter at Chris R. Gunn and on Instagram at Chris_Ray_Gun. Sacred Symbols is edited by Dustin Furman. To message the show online, please use Patreon's DM service. As you know, all of Colin's Last Stand shows, including Sacred Symbols, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/ColinsLastStand. The following names are at the producer level or higher on Patreon, and we are eternally grateful for your kindness, generosity, and fandom.
Jariah King, Nick DeMarco, Constantine Valencia, Avery Lewandowski, an unofficial controller podcast, Bjorn Campbell, Andrew Morgan, Gregory Slavinsky, Stephen Nieder, Ross Maranka, Zach Parsley, Jerome Ferreira, John, Jeremy Shook, Miguel A. Brewer, Morgan Ashley, Ben, Azan, Isaac Wasterman, Michael Vecchio, Joey Finelli, SL the FMA, Ryan T. Mandel, Jorge Palomino, Paul Joyce, Enrique Perez, Don Lee, Daniel Diamore, Brad Cooley, Jeremy Key, Patrick Leslie, P. Homeworld Hub, Dante Harris, Betty Ann Moriarty, Gavin, Colin Jewell, Nelson LeBlanc, Daniel Johnson, Zach Bonham, Jay Getter, Vexius, Greg Lotta, Jeff Mercado, Galja, Todd Paxton, Darren Gardner, Of Fortuna, Boots, Megadet, Kevin Komaki, Saul Balcazar, Raul Melendez, Robbie Hensley, Bloody Fang, Eric Harden, Matt Martin, Rodney Coleman, Chris Moore, Spencer Brand, TB Lightning, Antti Kinnunen, Taylor Barkley, Chris Galvin, Ryan Murdoch, Jesse Owen, Mason Cadillac, Scott Lovelace, Chris Buston, George Anthony Nunez, Kyle Hagel, Colin Love, Daryl E. Naiman, Ryan Arkittredge, Michael S., Joshua Smallwood, Damon Weathers, Cody Bradbury, Carl Tolman, Richter86, Barrett Boswell, Andrew Parker, Christopher DeVio, Donnie Nolan, Patrick Harper, Gerald Pennington, Greg Julips, Blake Israel, Sean Mason, Josh Gravelick, Brian Chan, Connor Gashian, Lawrence F. Prokop, Organic Produce, Toothless Gibbon, James Kinslow III, Tyler Bello, Mubarak, Alan Tremblay, McDog18, Richard Hebert III, Miranda Grubber, Marius Scarsom Peterson, Ray Leja, David Castanez, Throw7, Josh Yeager, Martin Beck, Nathan R., Joe McPartland, Gamer Filmaholic, Colin Davenport, Eric Finkenbeiner, Lewin Ray Loper, Josh Bushing, Dylan Burns, John Schultz, David Chestnut, Anton K., Corey Wyatt, Tony Zaniga, Sean Battershall, Alex Cabrera, Lennon Brixey, Hugo's Desk, Peter Reynolds, William O'Carroll, Phil Crone, Mike Wayne, Adam Nix, Josh McKinney, Michael Gates, Alex Gates, Sean Chandler, Petro Rose, Gio Corsi, Justin Wagaman, Chad Lewis, Shane Rayum, John Cordero, Mark Boggio, Keith A. Lewis, Tyler Harris, Matthew Purdue, Toby Shootman, Eric Bateman, Mad Mock Media, and Jonathan Rice.